Hey guys, this is Mark Silverman, Sylvie from Waddle and Sylvie on ESPN 1000. I'm the guy who's taught Tom Waddle everything he knows, including how to catch the football. And of course, you're watching and listening Brags in the Stands, a place that I come for knowledge, I come for entertainment, and I want to hear and talk to Jake more than I talk to Brags.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear. Look at young Gregory. Happy birthday, dear Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Happy birthday to you. Let's go. The Bears, they started this new tradition last year where they celebrate their wins the correct way.
Waddle and Sylvie, ESPN 1000, don't miss it.
I know what you mean.
It's like their own Philly.
Okay. Okay, I think what it is.
We shouldn't be showing this. Am I crazy?
What if I told you 17 minutes of rain would wash away 108 years of traffic?
Do you see this team growing into the team that you were in 2005?
Great practice, everybody.
Ridiculous.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back better than ever. This is Brags in the Stands. I am your host, Greg
Gregory Braggs Jr., and this is my co-host, graphic design extraordinaire and super producer, Jacob Hovanek, working the controls, rocking the beats.
Bring the techno down.
We're excited for tonight. That's right. It's cold.
That was really abrupt that I just killed that music. It was super intense.
Firing
and
away,
then it
just cut off. But I'm gonna keep the energy
I should have
going.
been, keep it going.
I'm gonna keep the heat going because it's been cold out in all of America. You know, up here in the Midwest, near Chicago, Northwest Indiana, the region, we're dealing with a hefty amount of snow. You know, I saw some things in Chicago like I've never seen before. Cars, caved in literally from the plows and the snow drift. Good luck shoveling that out. But Jake over here is down in Austin, Texas, and you're getting a whirlwind of cold and snow. What's that been like going on? Because I know a lot of people it's like very serious for a lot of people. Obviously,
it's
you
a
have
huge,
power.
huge issue. Yeah, millions of people don't have power. I luckily have power right now. But so many other people I know in town do not, especially a lot of our friends. Basically, we got hit with ice and it just drenched everything. And then we got some of the coldest temperatures I've ever had here since I've been here. I've been here about 6 years. And then, okay. Florida's awesome.
Jeff, you don't even live in Florida. He's like claiming Florida. We get it. Florida's great.
Florida's awesome.
They have their own issues. They certainly don't have to deal with snow. But then, Texas.
So we got snow, and then it's still here. I mean, we've had snow before a little bit, but I've never seen it beyond maybe 6 hours, and it's gone, or it's gone the next morning, or something like that. Now it's been here for a long time. We've had really cold temperatures. Our electrical grid's all screwed up. Lots of problems, and it's not very much fun. We don't have our water starting to get bad. I don't think we're not really having a lot of water flow to the house right now. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
How's our guy Mike doing? Is he handling it? He's got to be cold down there without a shirt. And
that's how he walks around.
and then you got the cold front. You got to get a sweater on, Mike, if you're gonna stay warm down there. But no, man, I'm happy to hear you guys are safe because I know it has been tough. I've been reading, Tim Shanley, the head of the Chicago Bears tailgating club, the guy that pulls all the strings over there. He lives down in Austin, and he was sharing some stories just how Timmy from the bus, as they affectionately call him, and he was talking about how just unprepared people were for it down there. Tim, obviously, and you coming from the Midwest kind of know a few things when you see a cold front and snowstorms coming in on the radar, to go get certain things and get your salt.
I stocked up. I stocked up. I don't think you could even buy salt. I mean, there are no plows. So when you're going down the road, nothing is plowed. It's just tracks. You're just following people's tracks. So all the roads are full of ice right now. We got freezing rain against last night. It's a mess. So this weekend we're supposed to get in the 50s, and I'm hoping that's the case, so we can just sort of get out of here. But then the whole electrical grid, that's another problem. But
it's crazy that it's sticking that long. I've seen crazy pictures of like chandeliers with icicles coming down from it because the water's coming through.
The past 2 days, it's been 10 degrees.
That's insane.
Degrees. Yes,
that is insane. That's what you get for making fun of me. I mean, I know there's seriousness to it.
Oh, yeah.
All the people from Texas, you included, you're always like, see, ha, ha, ha. Now,
you're
living the same winter I'm living.
It was literally like, this summer has been really warm, 60s and 70s. We had the day of the Bears playoff game, we got snow, and I made a message about it saying it was a sign, even though it wasn't. They got smoked. We had that snow about 4 or 5 inches, and then that was gone the next day. But this has been record cold and just brutal. So it is what it is.
Well, Mikey says that he's scrounging for protein, and I need him to make sure he keeps as much, because when I finally get on this thing that I've been flirting with him for the last couple weeks, but it's so cold out and I'm stuck in my house. It's like you
should be pumping.
I know. I always come up with the excuse.
It's the perfect time because you can't. Well, maybe you can, but for us, like I can't just go to Taco Bell. So I don't know if you can just.
No, I can.
You can.
I can.
Okay.
And it sucked because yesterday the power went out around here. So when I was coming back from the Purdue game, the Taco Bell power was out, so I couldn't even get myself a late night taco.
How often
do you
eat Taco Bell?
Like once a week, twice a week.
Twice a week.
Yeah. I mean, when I'm not on my health kick, which I most certainly am not. Yeah. It's shameful to think how much I eat Taco Bell. I can't help
convenience.
it.
It is
convenience food for sure.
What if your mom or your lovely wife, what if they made you a healthy lunch every day? Would you eat a healthy lunch, or would you say, no, I need a Taco Bell at least once a week? How would you do it?
Yeah, eventually I'm going to say, no, I'm just going to get my own thing.
Yeah.
But for the most part, yeah. I mean, but it's got my definition of a healthy lunch is steak. Like Jenny or a healthy dinner. Jenny's always trying to push chicken on me. And
chicken's solid.
I'm more steak, and then chicken's like down here.
Sure, but chicken is just like low fat, huge protein. Like that's when you're trying to get your gains, you need the poultry, man. Turkey too.
So Mikey's asking in the chat, what do I get from Taco Bell? And I mean, his icon. I thought his picture icon. Did the picture icon come up for you?
It's still there. Yeah, you're flashing.
Okay,
you're flashing shirtless Mikey over and over again. We get it. Okay, you're in. You.
Well, I couldn't see his picture anymore, so I thought he took it down because I was giving him crap about it. So he's asking what I get from Taco Bell, and this is a great question because Shane Marsaw, our good buddy from the Tape Never Lies Network, who loves to give me crap on a consistent basis, him and Phil, they think it's so funny of what I order from Taco Bell, and it's the cheesy gordita crunches that do it for me. Yeah. I mean, everybody gets a chicken quesadilla. That's kind of run of the mill. Everyone orders that when they go there. But it's the cheesy gordita crunches for me that are the death blows, because they're like,
that's the soft and the hard shell taco.
Yes,
and in between the two, is it cheese?
Major calories? Yeah, there's beef in there.
There's cheese in between the two tortillas. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's some cheese. No, there's some cheese in there.
Okay, cheese.
So it's
delicious. Let's not act like it's not delicious. I mean, it's good. So I don't fault you.
And so it's a problem. It really is. And like when you go and you order from a place like that, when you're someone like me that orders the way I do, you got to kind of pretend like you're ordering for two people. Because you do. You got to do it because
when you're in the drive-thru. When you're in the drive-thru and you're giving your order, do you say, "Oh, what do you want, dear?"
And my wife wants, my second order will be, and you just kind of make it sound like it's a second order. That's the trick. Because you don't
act
want
like
when they
open
the window, you don't want them judging you. It's tough. And then the other trick too is like, if you're like, give me a bunch of hot sauce, that kind of emphasizes that it's for more than one person. This is some of the dynamics at play here. This is going to be a little bit.
You really care what the Taco Bell employees think of you.
Well, when you go as much as I do, it certainly is. It's a science behind it. But we got a lot to cover today. We have JJ Stankevitz joining us in just a few moments. He's been doing some work for the House of L podcast. That's the logo for the House L podcast for Lawrence Holmes. There's my buddy JJ Stankevitz. Sorry, Jake, I don't mean to keep taking the header off.
I'm just hitting him in the middle. It's all good.
And there's JJ, Phil, and I prior to week 1. 2019 Bears Packers.
So much hope.
Yeah, so much hope at that time. And
our only issue was kicker.
I bought that stupid white sweater that you can't even read the Bears. That was a total bad buy on my behalf. And then this is the infamous picture where I have a pimple on my face. You can't really see it because it's not as blown up. But JJ is going to be joined. Yeah, I mean, well, Shane, that's another thing Shane loves to make fun of. He like zooms in on it. It was a tough day. I tried to pop it the night before.
Some people might shy away and just stay at home. I might, if I had a brutal pimple, I'd be like, I'll just chill at home maybe today. But you're you're with the people. You're saying, I don't care. Here I am.
That's not like somewhere you can put like a Band-Aid over it. So you just kind of got to roll with it.
You just roll with the punches.
And hope people don't call it herpes.
It's game day. You're not going to not go,
Another guy we're going to make sure we talk a lot to tonight and find out everything that he was up to and they were up to, of course, is our Super Bowl correspondents, Johnny B and Abby. We're down in Tampa and Johnny B's backstage. We'll bring him up for the conversation here before JJ comes in. You can't hear us, Johnny? Can you hear us now? Well, I'll tell you what, Johnny.
We'll figure it out later.
We'll bring you back here in a minute, and when we do, I'm sure you'll have your audio figured out. We could hear and see you. I guess he couldn't see us, but someone that sees us far too often, way too much, but he does it because he's a good man, is our next guest, and I have a special video to introduce him, and this is a all-time classic moment for one JJ Stankevitz.
Into December now, Cohen is the most important offensive player the Bears have, save Mitchell Trubisky. So if they get in another situation like that where they have a last-minute drive, they need to find a way to get Cohen on the field. But that also does fall on Cohen to kind of learn that part of the playbook as well.
We've been having too much fun. JJ, when you see this video of the double box, I don't want you to get mad at us. We just could not stop having fun with the music going on.
We are listening to you,
we truly are. But the thing is that I don't know if there's ever been a louder time when you were doing your pregame hit with us that we were able to decipher what the music was in the background.
Yeah, well, it's time to jump on it right now. So, you know what? Well, maybe you guys can do that back in the studio. Little, you know.
JJ, you're the absolute best. Thank you very much, sir.
JJ Stankevitz with the dance moves, working it to an all-time classic stadium song. How are we doing today, JJ? How's everything going?
I'm doing great, guys. Happy to be on with my favorite Bears fan, Greg Braggs. Good to see old Crux Biscuit over there, Jake.
Thanks, bud.
Some Simpsons in this. Excited to be on with you guys.
Yeah,
we're excited
to have you. Of course, you're a friend to our show. And, when we heard the news, unfortunately, and you see in the clip there, your work with NBC Sports Chicago with Lawrence Holmes, who you're now doing podcasting work with House of L, and I want to get into all that. But, that was an all-time classic moment, and all the great work you did over at NBC Sports Chicago.
Absolutely.
You've appreciated it for all these years, and we would have been remiss to not catch up with you, now that you're, a few weeks removed or however long it's been since you were let go by NBC Sports Chicago, and we were really sad to see that. But, I also sent you a message because I know you're going to land on your feet. You work very hard in this industry. So that's where I want to move, because I heard your thoughts, with Cam Ellis. Like I said, you've been doing some different stints on House of L, and you kind of touched on where your thoughts were and your reaction and everything. And I encourage anyone to go back and listen to those, because they were really, honestly, really interesting and riveting to kind of try to understand the other side of the business. All of us here pretending like us here at Braggs in the Stands, I don't know that side of the business. I'm a bricklayer who does this for fun, and I can appreciate that you're trying to do this to make ends meet, along with giving all this entertainment to us. So that's what, I wanted to bring you on today, to see how you're holding up, see what you're up to next, and make sure you're staying within this Chicago sports industry, or are you kind of a free agent where you're looking to see where the highest bidder is going to go, so to speak?
No, on the last part. I am looking at other careers, because I just it's like you said, Greg, it's such a tough industry to be a part of. And I got 2 kids who are 14 months old, and to try to continue in it for less than the perfect job, just it almost feels kind of irresponsible in a sense. And when I did that pod with Cam, it was still pretty fresh, and
Sure.
I was still thinking through a lot. Anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, Greg kind of mentioned, it was the House of L pod that Cam and I did. It was about, I don't even think it was a week after we got laid off. It was maybe the Monday after that, or whatever it was. So late January. And, as I've kind of spent some time here looking into what I need to do next, the thing that keeps coming back to me is that I don't think I can keep doing sports reporting. I don't think I can keep covering the Bears, quite frankly, because it's so hard to do it. Like what the situation you got, Greg, where you got a good, stable gig, and then on the side you get to kind of do this. That's more what I'm looking at. Is I'm not saying I'm getting out of the hollering about the Bears business, but I am saying, well, thank you. It's hard for me to envision that being my career. Now, the perfect job comes along, and I'm not going to say no to it. In fact, I would love to do it. But perfect jobs are very hard to find in this industry. I go back to all the folks who got laid off at NBC Sports Chicago while I was there, starting with John Moon Mullen, who I interviewed on House of L. I was really happy to do that interview with Moon. A guy had been covering the Bears since 1992. And 2016 rolls around, that was our first round of cuts. He was part of it. The next year, Dan Hayes and Patrick Mooney, two of the best baseball writers I have ever met, got laid off, as well as, some other folks like Scott Crinch did a really good job covering the Bears for NBC Sports Chicago. My boss at the time, TK Gore, who's been an incredible mentor to me, he was part of those layoffs. It's a tough business. And then that clip, hey, Lawrence and I both have been laid off from NBC Sports Chicago too.
Yep.
So, like Layla Rahimi, probably the most talented, versatile sports voice in the city of Chicago, got laid off from NBC Sports Chicago. Like, it doesn't matter how good you are at this.
Such a weirdly revolving door business. They just change for the sake of change.
It's because it's so hard to make money on it. And the thing that sucks is that for you guys as the fans, having fewer voices covering the team is bad for fans. Just straight. It's bad for fans. Something, Greg, you had a Twitter thread the other day about, they should be allowing, podcasters and Windy City Gridiron into the press box. And I agree. And I feel like that's probably sacrilege to say as someone who was in a professional media job. But look, I mean, this is the way things are going, is fans have such a larger platform nowadays that, 10, 20 years ago obviously did not exist. And something that I was encouraged to do at NBC Sports Chicago was to kind of write from more of the fan perspective, really try to harness the fan energy. And I felt like I did that, especially over the last couple years that I was there. And now I'm gone. And, that I think just, everyone has to have their own little silo when it comes to covering the team. And, there are a lot of really good people on the Bears beat. You guys are, very lucky to be Bears fans with the amount of talented writers that are on the Bears beat. From Kevin Fishbane to Patrick Finley, to, Chris Emma does a really good job with the score. My old colleague Adam Hogue does a really good job. Adam Johns, Colleen Kane, Dan Wiederer, Potsy, Jason Leisure, Jeff Dickerson. Like, it is a stacked beat. And you guys are going to be fine. This is a long-winded say. You guys are going to be fine, but I do think that the voices just inevitably are going to get chipped away at, and it stinks. It sucks.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of the business.
There's so many times that we're like, when you would ask a tough question to Matt Nagy or something like that, we'd say, oh man, JJ, thank you for asking that question. Because that's like, I guess that's kind of the major detriment to losing more and more voices in the room, is because you're not going to hear maybe someone who's going to approach the conversations with the coach and ask him tough questions as much as you would if you're limiting those voices to just a select few. So we always appreciated you being in the room. We always appreciated the questions you asked, and definitely going to miss you, but glad to hear that you're not going to be going too far away.
Yeah. And, it's definitely a heavy conversation. I appreciate how open you have been about it. Like, and that was going to be to my next point, is with the, you see with what Lawrence Holmes did. Yes, he's still working in the industry, but he has his own platform that he made, just like I did here at Brags and Stands. I've done some different things through the years, but I was just like, I just want my own thing, so I can talk about whatever I want to talk about, because I'm selfish. And if people want to tune in and listen to me babble about whatever I'm interested in, so be it. I don't know why, but that's why I respect what Lawrence Holmes is doing, creating his own thing. And then what I really respected is how he handed it off to you, gave you the keys to the House of L podcast. And I really have enjoyed, these different ones, the latest ones you're talking about, the different QB options, and we'll get into all that. But I did want to ask you about your relationship with Lawrence Holmes and what he's meant as a colleague and kind of what he brings to the table. Because me from from a distance, I see how hard he works. I listen to his interviews and how detailed he is. He can run a whole 3-hour show by himself and talk to nobody. And it's like you're having a conversation with him when you're sitting in the car. So I've always appreciated his craft. And then he does the post-game shows with the Bears when you were on with him. What kind of a relationship has that meant with you with Lawrence Holmes?
Lawrence has been maybe the biggest champion of my work in the city of Chicago. And it's something that I will be forever grateful for. We started working together in 2017 on Bears pregame live, on NBC Sports Chicago, Bears postgame live. And, he was always great on that because he would just say, hey, give me 3 topics you want to talk about. And he gave me the freedom to go do my reporting in the locker room so I could then go talk about those 3 things on the pregame show. It was never like, hey, we're going to talk about this. So I really want you to go do that. Lawrence was great with me in 2017 on the pregame and the postgame show. And then 2018, the Bears and NBC kind of had a split in terms of the official postgame show. It went over to Fox. We could not broadcast live from Soldier Field, which meant my live hits went away on, any shot of that on the Football After Show or on, the warm up or whatever those shows were. So I kind of dropped off those shows, which I was okay with. But Lawrence, always stayed in contact with me. He had me on when he was in that 6 p.m. slot on The Score. And then, was really, really huge for me in giving me a regular spot on his show. Every Friday I would talk to Lawrence about the Bears during the season. And, I had that. My favorite thing was the intro that Tony Gill, who's now the podcast producer at NBC Sports Chicago. And by the way, quick aside on Tony Gill, he's maybe the most talented person I've ever worked with. Tony is the absolute goods. But he made an intro for me for Lawrence's show that came from a hit I did with Lawrence after I went and worked out. It was when my wife and I were, getting into shape for our wedding. And I said, I was kind of out of breath on it because it was right after we went and did a boot camp workout. And Lawrence is like, "You okay?" And I was like, "No, I just worked out, man. I'm feeling really wiped, but I'm going to go eat pizza and drink beer after this. So I guess I earned it." And that played every time I went on Lawrence's show. And then, fast forward to when, Lawrence got his job eliminated. We stayed in contact and I cannot speak highly enough of Lawrence for, he was like, "Hey, I still want you on the radio show." And he still promoted the Under Center podcast in a way that he was a co-host of it. He and I were doing it. And then for him to go away from it, but still be such a champion of the work that Cam and I put in on it, was really incredible. And then to kind of wrap this up here, I get laid off and one of the first people to reach out is Lawrence and says, "Hey, when, take some time, but when you're ready, I got some ideas." And I called him up and he said, "Hey, if you want to do stuff for House of L, you got the platform." And
that's awesome.
I mean, Lawrence, he's the absolute goods. Someone who I'm, lucky enough to call friend, not just a colleague.
It speaks to his character, no question about it.
And one other thing, if I can just use this as a platform,
absolutely.
Rave about Lawrence. So back when he was still on nights at The Score, it was the day Chuck Pagano got hired as the Bears defensive coordinator. So and it was right after the season ended, 2018 ends and all this stuff happens. And, finally it was that Friday night, my wife and I were like, "Okay, we're going out to dinner." My birthday, my 30th birthday was the double doink day. Nice. Literally, I didn't see my wife at all on my 30th birthday. So we went out to dinner that night. We went to Duck Duck Goat and, we had a nice dinner and came back, and in the middle of dinner, I'm like, oh shit, they hired Chuck Pagano. So I come back and Lawrence is like, hey, can you hop on? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I hop on and, we're talking about Pagano, and toward the end of it, Lawrence is like, hey, what does your wife think of this? And I was like, she's sitting right here. Do you want me to ask her? And he goes, yeah, put her on. So I give the phone to my wife, Betsy, who's sitting there like, what are you doing? Hi, Lawrence. Hey, Betsy, what do you think of Chuck Pagano? And she goes, well, he was trash as a head coach, but I think he'll be fine as a defensive coordinator. And Lawrence and Tony were like, that could not have gone any better.
And from that point forward, Pagano never gave you an interview. No, I'm kidding.
No, I don't think Chuck Pagano knows about that. That's
no, hey, you could talk, speak praises to Lawrence Holmes all day long. Yeah, I've always appreciated his work in the city. I'll tune in. Everybody knows me as an ESP 1000 guy because I'm always a P1er on that end. But I'll turn over the dial. And one time I was listening to Lawrence giving college advice to kids about how they should direct their attention if they want to get in media and stuff. And I just appreciate someone that looks out for people in that way. And the way he looked out for you, I definitely can appreciate, because like I said, you've done 3 podcasts so far. And the first one was to talk about kind of what you're going through with Cam, and you and Cam Ellis, who both did the Under Center podcast, and being let go in that way and your reaction to that. And I appreciated your honesty in that interview. And then your second interview, as you mentioned, was with your, it seems, a mentor, John Moon Mullen. Here's a picture of me with Moon at camp. I really appreciate Moon. I've seen him at training camps for years, and before it was cool, he would always sit at the top of the bleachers in the middle field with me, because all the press would always get one bleachers to their own, and it was like their private club that Greg wasn't allowed in, and I didn't like that. And then there was the middle bleachers where anybody could go, and Moon was always smart. He always went to the best angle, and he'd always go to the top, because then he could sit down. And then I started figuring out that's where I wanted to be. And then it turned out every year me and Moon would be sitting next to each other at camp, and I'd be picking his brain, and he could not have been a nicer person. And I'd love for you to speak about John Moon Mullen, because as I said, you did a podcast together on Hustle, and he was talking about his battle with pancreatic cancer, and the positivity and his mindset really was refreshing in a lot of ways. I'd love for you to maybe touch a little bit on Moon there.
Yeah, I mean, Moon has been a mentor, one of the most impactful people I've ever had a chance to know. And, he really kind of took me under his wing in 2017 when he was kind of transitioning out of being the Bears insider, because, we had to cut a position, and they decided, okay, we have to cut Moon's position, but we still want to keep him around as kind of like, a columnist, insider, emeritus type role. And, if that happened, it would have been totally understandable if Moon was like, I don't want to deal with this kid. Like, I was 28 at the time and covered Notre Dame, but he's Moon. Moon was covering football for almost as long as I was alive. And he could not have been more gracious with his time. He was so helpful that first year, especially. I was on the beat, so I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I remember going down to the combine and Moon just introducing me to literally everyone he knew, which was literally everyone at the combine. And just being so gracious. And, anytime I ever needed anything, Moon always picks up the phone. So, he told me about his diagnosis. This would have been late 2019. I remember I was actually in the NICU with our kids, and he told me that, and I was devastated. And, we leave, and I called him up that night, and talking to him, I was just like, it was Moon. It was like, I guess I should have expected Moon to have such an incredible perspective on the whole thing. And, our conversations for now, it's been over a year, about whether it's been football, whether it's been how he's doing, whether it's been how my boys are doing. Moon is one of the most remarkable people I've ever had a chance to meet. And it's not really a conversation that I was like, I had the platform to share on the Under Center podcast, right? So that was the first thing that popped into my head after Cam and I did that first House of L, was like, I want to interview Moon. And there were a lot of people who didn't know he had pancreatic cancer, and has been battling it for a year. So, not only did I kind of want to share that part of Moon's story, but also a lot of people don't know Moon's story. Like, Moon did not come up as a hardened sports writer, like, this is all I want to do. Like, he worked in the mines. And then he worked in the mercantile exchange, which I'm still not quite clear what the hell that is. And then he switched careers, became a business writer for the Daily Herald. They moved him to the Bears beat, and he just stuck. I mean, it's incredible.
Crazy.
Yeah. I don't remember who, I think it was Lawrence who put it in the intro of that. Like, it's like if Ernest Hemingway, but he covered the Bears. Like,
he did. He had that aura about him for sure. He really did.
And the thing that I love the most about that pod was late. So, we posted it. I don't remember what night it was, but then the next morning kind of reposted it, get some momentum and stuff. And I got a note from Moon that night saying he was overwhelmed by the amount of people who reached out to him from it. That's awesome. Because Moon, you haven't really heard from Moon. You haven't really seen Moon since this diagnosis. And he said, like, I never realized how many people A, didn't know, but B, cared that much. And I was really, really heartened to see that, hear that from him, because I knew it was going to resonate with a lot of people because, it's Moon. But
right.
I was really glad that many people took the time to reach out to him. And, it was people he worked with in the industry to, fans like you, Greg, my favorite one was a guy tweeted at me, and I sent it to Moon that, he was a bartender at a restaurant up in the northern suburbs who Moon would go in there from time to time, and he would always chat with this guy and, always would talk football with him and always would answer his questions. And, hearing that's something too that Moon, kind of told me early on was like, hey, like, Bears fans are smart, and you can really start to ingratiate yourself with them if you just talk to them. Yep. You don't talk to them, you talk with them. Mm-hmm. And that's something Moon did so well. And Greg, you saying that about he was sitting next to him in the stands, that was Moon. And yep. that was the kind of reporter and writer and personality I always tried to be, someone who was not talking at you guys, but trying to talk with you guys.
He was a great conversationalist, and he didn't make you feel like you were bugging him. Like I said, you guys got the private club bleachers, then I'm standing next to him, so I see him with his notepad and everything. You might throw in a question there, and then you're like, but then he starts asking you questions, and that kind of throws you a curveball, and now all of a sudden you're talking to him. And one of the things he said on the House L podcast was, don't worry about the circumstances, live for the moment. I might be paraphrasing a little bit, but that was one of his sentiments he had. And for somebody like me, I live for the moment. So that really resonated with me, and I appreciated those words and those thoughts. And a really, really, really excellent job. Again, anybody that hasn't had a chance, go to the House of L podcast for Lawrence Holmes's House L podcast. It's available on Apple iTunes and everywhere else. And really, really, really good stuff. I wanted to hit on that before we picked your brain about these Chicago Bears and everything else, because I know even though you're looking around at what you're going to do next, the Bears are always going to be pissing us off.
The Bears are looking around,
and the Bears are trying to figure out what they're going to do next. I feel more confident for you, JJ, landing on your feet than these Chicago Bears, because I am nervous. It's just the whole thing is all about the QB. The QB room and what it's going to look like next year. And you touched on that again, and I don't want to steal the thunder for what you touched on in that podcast, because, to me, you brought up some different options. But what I do want to ask you is, if they're going to sell the farm for any of these garbage guys like Wentz or any of them, I don't want them.
How do you feel about it, Greg?
Why can't we just wait all the way to training camp for my guy Deshaun Watson? That's all I want to do. Draft a guy. Don't worry about any of these guys right now. Don't fall for it and wait. Deshaun Watson is gonna get traded. Why can't we just wait all the way to camp and then do exactly what we did with Khalil Mack and make the blockbuster move 2 weeks before the season starts?
I mean, Yeah, that would be the best case, right?
Yes, I love best case scenarios.
Yeah,
my
well,
favorite.
You're an inherently positive person, which is what I love about you, Greg. But if you do that, you know what you're risking?
Everything.
Nick Foles, week 1 starting quarterback. Like, are you really willing to risk that? Because yes, Deshaun Watson, I agree, will get traded, and yes, it will probably take a really long time. But like, if you're Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, and you have been told you have to show progress this year, you're not going into the season with Nick Foles as your week 1 starting quarterback, nor are you going into the season with a rookie who might be the 5th or 6th best quarterback in this year's class as your starter. Like, and we're not talking about like Justin Herbert falling to being the 3rd quarterback last year, but still being a top 10 pick. Like, I don't know if Kyle Trask or Mac Jones will be available at number 20.
Isn't that crazy?
Forget Trey Lance. Forget Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
I don't know
what luck the Bears have.
There's so many teams that are quarterback needy right now. It's unbelievable.
What luck the Bears have that's the case. That 6 could potentially be off the board before 20. And now, once again, if they even want the guy that is their guy, they have to trade up to get him no matter what. That's where all of this frightens me. Trading up for Carson Wentz, or trading a lot of different, equity that I'm not interested in giving up for a guy that's a project makes no sense to me. This is why I go back to the failure of these two guys, Dumb and Dumber, as whatever you want to call them, by not just get rid of everybody. Then my plan of
real quick, just to stop you on that one. As I've kind of backed away from the Ted Phillips, George McCaskey press conference, I'm not trying to say it wasn't a disaster, but I think we view bold action as being easier to take sometimes than it actually is. And I say this because essentially for the Bears, for those two guys to have done what the fans would have wanted, they would have had to commit to losing for a period of time, whether it's 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. And I think eventually they're going to have to get there. But they are not the first nor the last top of an organization people who are reticent to do that. And as I've thought about it a lot more, while I don't agree with the approach, I think sometimes it is harder for the top level leadership of an organization to go through that rebuild. I mean, look at the White Sox. Like, the White Sox won the World Series in 2005. They spent the next decade just spinning their wheels and trading Fernando Tatis for James Shields and trading for Jake Peavy and then trying to blow it up, but then going and getting Melky Cabrera and Jeff Samardzija and David Robertson, and none of it worked. And it took them 10 years to realize, holy crap, we've got to do something about this. It doesn't just kind of happen like that. The Bears are in that boat right now. They are approaching 10 years, if they haven't got there already, of kind of spinning their wheels, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not trying to say this is like a defense of what they did, but I think something that I did not give enough credit to was just how hard it is for these people at the top of organizations to go that route. It is really, really hard. I mean, the Lions, it took them way too long to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of the nature of the NFL, is that especially in the NFL, teams talk themselves into things a lot easier than in other sports because of the draft, because of parity, because you have seasons like the Bears from 17 to 18 where it's like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened.
Right.
And we're going to kick you in the teeth. All right. And when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. All right. And we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. All right. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap and we're going to get up. And then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before.
You mentioned the Lions. I can't help it.
Good job, Greg.
You mentioned the Lions rebuild, and I got to bring that guy in.
Our goatee.
That's who we need. To me, though, JJ, it's the pragmatic approach. It takes a little bit of nuts to make the move and get rid of everybody, but just foresee your future. If I'm taking what Ted Phillips is saying on face value and saying when he said it almost like a mob boss, when the extensions will come when we see improvement. Well, how do you expect improvement to be made off a season where you skimmed into the playoffs, made it at the back end? So now it has to be better than that. So that means winning a playoff game at the bare minimum. And now it's going to be a new quarterback in this house, because that's the other thing they said is they're going to get the quarterback room right. So you're expecting either a veteran project quarterback like Wentz or Minshew or, all these different.
My guy.
Yes. And I like that one better because then I'm still in the Watson Derby at camp.
Yeah.
Minshew stop us there. So I like that option as opposed to Wentz, because then these other guys, the rookie options, if you trade up for a rookie, you're telling me he's going to be ready to take this team and make him into a 2018 fire starter team and save everyone's jobs? I don't see it. That's why the firing everybody would have been pragmatic, because then you don't have any pressure on Lincoln Riley to lead them to whatever they're going to.
Not Lincoln Riley.
Whoever,
Well, the other side, I mean, when you don't have a quarterback, what are you expecting? I mean, I know that they said, look, we're not the football guys. We let Ryan make those decisions, even though they do make football decisions in a way and they don't admit it. But you know that your guy didn't pick a quarterback. You know that your quarterback room is practically bare, and you're telling your general manager and your head coach that, hey, we need improvement without a quarterback. We don't know who that's going to be, but we want you to be here to do it. And I don't know if they're giving them license to just mortgage the future for whatever this year could possibly be, but it seems a little impractical to be like, look, these are the guys we believe in, but they need to show improvement this next year, but we don't have a quarterback. Like, why wouldn't they just extend him? Why wouldn't they just say, look, we believe in Ryan Pace. We're going to give him a 2-year extension, and we're going to give him time to actually build this team, not just say it's one or done, and he doesn't have a lot of ammunition to get done this year.
The thing that I still think the Bears probably should have done was hiring that football person above Pace. And, when George McCaskey said he consults with the Rooneys and the Bidwells and the Maras, that was widely panned. Yeah, except that, if you're doing that, they might also, recommend someone for that job who, I don't think they're telling him, oh, hey, you should go hire for that job is Phil Emery. They're not doing that. So, I think just that guardrail would have been at least encouraging. Right now, we're sitting here and it's just TikTok. Are they going to do something stupid for Carson Wentz?
And it feels like the Colts are going to out-stupid us, because it seems like...
You think Chris Ballard is going to out-stupid Ryan Pace?
No, to me, anybody trading any big equity for him, to me, is stupid. If you get him for a 4th-round pick, that's worth it, because he is a project. You get him for what, I don't know, because look at a guy like
seems like first rounders are at least off the table now.
Don't you get the sense, guys, though, that the Colts are just sitting back and being like, yeah, that's our offer.
Yeah.
We're not going to increase it because it's Carson Wentz.
Right.
Yes. And also, by the way, I think if Carson Wentz was the Colts, he'd be much more likely to have success than if he came to Chicago.
Why? Because of the offensive line, right? Isn't that what?
And also Frank Reich, who, as it turned out, had a lot more to do with Carson Wentz in 2017 than John DeFilippo, who we all thought was like, whoa, this guy built Carson Wentz. Well, you know what? If he built Carson Wentz, he'd be a head coach.
Yep.
And Frank Reich is not only a head coach, but he's a really good head coach.
Yeah, he is.
I think
he's
that structure.
And he's been in the league for a long time. And then we're learning with Matt Nagy, who was only in one system, didn't go make the rounds around the league, learn different systems. And now he's really like, I don't know how to run the ball, and that's you learn really those when you go to all those different teams. Well, Frank Reich has been around forever. So I think that has played something big into it. Another coaching thought I definitely wanted to get with you is the new defensive coordinator. You've been around this team for a long time, and you've probably crossed paths with Sean Desai a few times. What do you think of his makeup, and how do you think he'll fill that role as defensive coordinator?
So Chubbs82 in the chat talks about the coaches abandoning him and the players publicly speaking out against Nagy.
Yes. Chubbs is our loyal listener, and he is one of the toughest on the Bears Twitter streets, but he's got a big heart.
Big advocate for Florida.
I don't know if anyone in the media is not saying this, because I guess I'm not part of the media anymore. But the thing about the coaches abandoning him, that to me feels real. Like, okay, you lost Ragone, you lost London, and I know London had been wanting to get a quarterback position job for a while, to the point where I actually asked him about it in December, and he kind of denied that he wanted it, which I was like, yeah, okay, sure. You're a running backs coach who wants to coach quarterbacks, and by the way, should be given the opportunity to coach quarterbacks, because like only white guys are getting jobs coaching quarterbacks. Charles London is very much equipped to do that and deserve the shot he got in Atlanta. Different story. But the Bears are not an attractive coaching destination right now. Like, for them to go out and try to get the hotshot rising coordinator, the Aaron Glenn, like they're not getting that guy. So how do you counter that? Do you go get the retread? Do you just hire Mike Pettin to be your defensive coordinator? Or do you hire James Betcher, who was out of a job last year? Or do you kind of go a completely different route and go ahead and hire someone in Sean Desai, who you've had in your building since, was he there? I don't remember if he was there the last year of the Love era, but he's been in your building for a long time now.
Yeah.
Yes.
But someone who, like Vic Fangio, pounded the table to keep around, and I believe wanted to take to Denver, and the Bears said, no, we want to keep you around then too. I think he's got a lot of really smart ideas about how to run a defense. Can he be the voice of a coordinator? That's what we don't know. I think actually then bringing Mike Pettin in as kind of that backstop was really smart.
Sure.
The way the Bears did this. But at the same time, you don't have Jay Rodgers anymore. So you've lost your best position coach at any position on the team. Is that going to kind of stall the pipeline of defensive linemen that have just been absolutely incredible and have done so much for the rest of that defense over the last couple of years? I mean, that's a worry of mine here.
How do you think, because he's a secondary coach, I mean, and they did so well in 2018, Eddie Jackson's ball hawking, and then he got hurt, which really hurt our playoff chances that year, but these last couple of years, Eddie got paid, but he hasn't, had the year he had in 2018. He had some touchdown pick sixes called back this year that I thought were questionable, that would change maybe the perception. But how do you think he's done with the secondary unit? Because that's what doesn't make sense to me. Like, if everyone keeps saying Jay Rodgers was this amazing position coach. Why'd they let him get out of town? Why didn't they give him the defensive coordinator job? Because to me, it's not everyone saying Sean Desai was the top positions coach on the team. It was Jay Rodgers.
Yeah, and that's 100% right. It was Jay Rodgers.
How do people? How do you know that? I don't understand how people can determine that just from the play on the field for the
look at who Jay Rodgers has developed, and like the guys who the Bears drafted, like those are guys who Jay Rodgers is like, I can turn this guy into something. I can turn Bilal Nichols into, going from a 4-3 to a 3-4, no problem. This guy's got the talent we want. Jay Rodgers had a very specific, very specific parameters of what he was looking for in his D lineman, and the Bears just kept on finding those guys for him. But the one thing I will also say is a lot of the times I feel like the guys who make the bump to coordinator don't often come from the trenches. You don't see a lot of O-line coaches becoming offensive coordinators. And, I don't have a ton of data to back this up, but I feel like D-line coaches are less likely to become coordinators than secondary coaches. Chuck Pagano was a secondary guy, in his upbringing, obviously leading to coaching Ed Reed with the Baltimore Ravens. That was his background. So I think you kind of have to have everything organized as a more of a back-end coach. And the other thing I wonder too is, because Pagano was a secondary guy, he was a defensive backs guy, I don't know this because, again, I haven't done literally any reporting on this because it's not my job right now. But I wonder if Desai maybe had some ideas that weren't listened to, but maybe he didn't feel like he could totally present. I don't know. Or maybe his, it was like, this is Chuck's way. Again, right. I don't know any of this. I'm saying this with a huge disclaimer that I don't know any of this. But I think that look, Desai probably blew the Bears away in this interview because otherwise they would have taken a look at Jay Rodgers, whose contract was up. Chubbs mentioned in Mark DeLeon, another really, sharp up-and-coming coach, a guy who doesn't have a ton of experience, but a guy who's got a really good football mind. They could have gone 100 different ways with this, but ultimately, I think going with Desai is probably a pretty sharp move because, look, if he can kind of bring the principles of the Fangio defense with the detail that he can provide for the defense, I think that will make him a good coordinator.
Well, and to my point earlier about, coaches learning from different coaching staffs, even though he hasn't gone around the league, he didn't have to because in Chicago, it's a revolving door of coaching staffs. So he's been able to kind of, and that speaks to someone that is talented on a different level. I always used to say that about people who used to give me crap because I was a Josh Bellamy fan before they gave me crap for being a Mitchell Trubisky fan. And hey, he ended up, I don't know what's going on.
Bezo was too much about that bread.
Yeah.
He seems to be doing all right now after his legal troubles. But I always used to say about Bezo, hey, he made it through 3 different coaching staffs. And when you can do that, it kind of speaks to who you are as a player. And that goes the same for a coach. If he can stick on all these different organizations that change their whole complexion with their coaching staffs and he can stick through it, that speaks to his talent and maybe what he's learned. So I'm interested to see what he can bring to the table. Jake, I had a couple more about, offensive line and then our kicker. Did you have anything specific for JJ?
I was just speaking on talking on coaches, I would say, do you have any inkling that Nagy has really learned from what 2020 was? Do you think that all of everything that came with, Mitch and Foles and putting on the play sheet and all these, the different ebbs and flow of the season, the 6-game losing streak, whatever it was, do you think that he's learned something valuable to bring into 2021 that'll actually help him regain the confidence of maybe the fan base and maybe even people in that building that he's the right guy to be the head coach?
I'll say this about Matt Nagy. I thought something from 2019.
Yes,
I really did. I really believe that he learn something. And by the way, the start of the season, it kind of looked like he did. The way the Bears came out in those first couple games where they were running 12, 13 personnel. They were running with David Montgomery, and they were getting good yardage with him.
And then he let one half against the Falcons scare him off it. That's exactly what happened. He was running that 12-man personnel, hard, heavy running. I mean, granted, they were playing the Lions and the Giants suck, and then they played the Falcons.
Giants' run defense, by the way, was no joke. Like, Giants had a good run defense.
Right, but at that time, everybody was just like, they sucked. So, that's
they
why
lost
it was
Saquon
like
that day. Big shock.
Right. So it's always disclaimer game with the Bears and Mitch, and I'm totally past that whole saga, but that did frustrate me with Nagy. He chose the quarterback competition he had in camp. He chooses Mitch. Then he changes the entire complexion of how they run their offense for 2.5 games. He gets cold feet, goes to Nick Foles, and then all this whirlwind stuff starts happening. They get lucky, and I don't, I always go back to
Greg, I should have just asked you the question.
The thing that I'll never understand about that, it just drives me nuts when you bring it up, is had he never made the switch, would he have ever truly understood what he wasn't doing right, as it appeared he did by the end of the year when he went back to Mitch and finally started doing the things that Chubbs has been screaming about in our chat rooms for months?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question, though, is now this is a do or die year for Matt Nagy, and the Bears need a new quarterback. Will Matt Nagy draft a quarterback and fit or bring in a new quarterback, whoever it is, draft? I think should do both. Draft, bring someone else. I said on the pod I did with Lawrence and Cam, just treat Nick Foles as a sunk cost. Like, you don't even think about him next year. Like, he is number 9, and he is Tyler Bray, former number 9, like that. But honestly, no, you can't. You cannot give Matt Nagy the thought of, like, we're doing it, we're going back to my offense, and Nick is the guy. You can't do that. So I think you have to go and see who the Bears bring in, and that's sort of why I liked the idea of Gardner Minshew, who was the guy I was kind of advocating for on the House of L Pod, is that, look, he's not going to cost you like anything. He's so cheap, and draft capital is not going to be super significant. But Matt Nagy, I think if you took the offense the Bears ran, where it was a lot of the naked stuff, and it was not simple, but it was maybe a little bit, it wasn't the football genius that you need to run his offense, like he always talked about Alex Smith, and Alex is so good at this, Alex is so good at that. And it's like, Alex Smith is actually a really smart quarterback. But I think what you could do with Minshew is build an offense around him that can take some of his strengths, one of which is, by the way, decision-making, and turn that into an offense that, no, you're not going to have the 9th best offense in the NFL, but you might have the 13th or 14th best offense. And if you believe in that defense as being a top 10, 8, 7 defense, like, you can make the playoffs and not just back in with an 8-8 record. You can make the playoffs, capital M, with that as your profile. But it's going to take Matt Nagy to throw every aspect of that shotgun-heavy, pass-oriented offense out of the window, because it does not work unless you are the Kansas City Chiefs and you have the greatest quarterback in the NFL, the fastest receiver in the NFL, and the greatest tight end in the NFL. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Well, speaking on Alex Smith for a minute, that was always something that in the back of my mind I thought might be an actual possibility if they don't get, if something doesn't happen with Wentz. I know Alex was talking about wanting to play this next year. Like you said, Nagy is just over the moon about this guy. It's like the biggest feel-good story in the whole NFL that he's been able to come back and play football. Everybody is rooting for him. Do you think that, for the sake that, let's just say that they bring him on as a free agent, if he were to get released from Washington or whatever it may be, do you think that that's something that could actually elongate his, or how do I want to say this? I guess having a feel-good guy at quarterback for Nagy and them, depending on how it goes, you have somebody that the fan base is rooting for. You have somebody that the city of Chicago is rooting for in that regard, So do you think that would help them, with a guy like that?
No, because look, I mean, Alex Smith, it was a great story. I could not believe somebody didn't vote for him for comeback player of the year.
Yeah, it was crazy.
But like Alex Smith is like, again, great story, but I mean, you guys saw him play last year. Like,
sure.
I don't think you're putting this offense in Alex Smith's hands if you want to show progress. But again, you can't rule it out because Matt Nagy and Alex Smith are really tight.
Right.
So no, you can't rule that out, but it's something that I would be, if that's the route they go, like they just did that with Nick Foles, and Alex Smith is probably going to be worse than what Nick Foles was trying to run that offense.
That's the thing. It's hard to know what. Sorry, Greg, but it's hard to know what option the Bears actually have, given the quarterbacks that are potentially available, and also given where they're drafting. How are they actually going to make major progress? I mean, Gardner Minshew might be a very interesting prospect, and he could come at a good price, but he's not a world beater just the same. I mean, he had plenty of forgettable moments last season when he was even on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is the sexy pick for the Bears? What is the exciting thing for them?
Yeah,
besides
there. But the thing is, like, if you want the realistic thing, it doesn't exist.
Right.
Like,
not true. This is realistic.
No, that ain't realistic, right?
He will not be a Texan next year.
No, he'll be a Jet or a Dolphin or a 49er.
He's not going to be a Texan though, for sure.
No,
right?
no, I'm not going to say for sure, but I would say like 98%. He's not going to be on the Texans.
So I'm waiting it out. That's why the Minshew thing doesn't bother me, because then Craig, you can give out.
You have to. I understand. Like, that is what
I'm obsessed.
The Bears, well, it's Deshaun Watson. He's one of the 4 best quarterbacks in the NFL, of course.
Yeah, we can right a wrong here. It's clear as day. I rooted for Mitch as much as anybody, but this is your second swing at state missed. It's like as clear as the Khalil Mack move when everyone was, and back then people were like, "Oh, there's no way they're going to get."
Have a no trade clause though.
I think Watson would come here. I think Watson would put us on his list. I do believe that. I think he likes the idea of being in the city. I think if Chicago.
It seems like Denver is more interesting place if you're looking for cold weather and inclement, things like that. Feels like Denver is more equipped to actually win now.
I mean, the Minshew move is a move that a coach that isn't worried about his job makes.
But what move then do the Bears make? If I am saying Deshaun Watson is not going to be on the Bears in 2021. Same with Russell Wilson. Same with Dak Prescott. So what move are we making here?
I know.
Like, that's the thing. Like,
can't they just go? Can they go back and just fire these guys now that it's clear that they have no option?
But the thing is like the move that I would make if he became available would be Derek Carr. That would be the guy I would go get. But for Derek Carr to become available, the Raiders have to get Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, or Dak Prescott, because Derek Carr is really good, and the Raiders are not just going to get rid of him because they whatever. Like, so in the absence of the quarterback carousel landing a huge name in Las Vegas, I think your options are Wentz, who is bad, Sam Darnold, who is bad, and I can't believe people are trying to talk themselves into Sam Darnold, because guess what? Sam Darnold is worse than Mitch Trubisky.
We got
Marcus Mariota, who was a backup last year, and
Ryan Pace loves him.
Yeah, Ryan Pace does like him, but like Marcus Mariota couldn't find a starting job last year. Marcus Mariota, when he got into that game, who was it against on Monday or Sunday night, where he got in and it was like, oh man, like Mariota's doing it, and then he threw like one terrible pass and things just went downhill. Like, it's such a, like, for all the quarterback movement that's going to happen this year and has already happened, the Bears are not in a position to go get someone of those top names. Let me ask you guys this, though. Would you rather have Jimmy Garoppolo for about half of your cap space, which means you might not be able to keep Allen Robinson if A-Rob even wants to come back? Or would you rather have Gardner Minshew and like $39 million available to build out the rest of your roster?
Gardner Minshew, 110%.
Minshew for sure.
Honestly, if you're asking me, to be honest with you, I'm okay with Nick Foles starts next year because I'm thinking big picture because I'm not Ryan Pace and I'm not.
That's why it's a convoluted discussion because
next year, they're going to get a high pick.
So be it.
That's where it's such a convoluted discussion because it's a crossroads of what we would do and what the Bears have to do, and that's why the whole having to trade the farm for Carson Wentz starts to sound like a real possibility because they have to have somebody that has the potential for juice, that like real juice, not just, Gardner Minshew's ceiling is not a Super Bowl or not a playoff win. Gardner Minshew is make the playoffs and lose in the first round.
The one thing I will say about this is like, that's what we think. Do we know that?
Well, I did this game with Mitch for 2 years.
That's a good point. We just did it with Mitch.
And I thought that it could get better.
Gardner Minshew he's entering his third year in the NFL, and like quarterbacks sometimes just are like, whoa, all right, this guy might have it. I don't know that about Gardner Minshew, but for like $1 million, if that, next year, I'm willing to take that chance. While also drafting 2 quarterbacks this draft, taking 2 swings at it, and having an eye on then using a first-round pick on my quarterback in 2022. Gardner Minshew would be a really good bridge quarterback who actually has some upside.
Moxie.
As opposed to Sam Darnold, who's going to cost 8 times the amount of money, and has been worse in his career than Gardner Minshew, or Carson Wentz, who's going to cost 30-something times the amount of money and was god-awful last year.
Yeah.
Your options suck. Gardner Minshew is the least sucky of the options, in my opinion, and that's why I think the Bears should go get him.
I'm totally on board with you. Absolutely.
100% on board with you. I was going to get into a little offensive line talk, but I don't want to take off too much of your time with this Bears talk. But the one thing I did want to ask you about with more of some of the stuff you were talking about on the House of L podcast with Cam Ellis that had my ears perked up was Cairo Santos.
Yeah.
Cairo Santos, the kicker has been out of our mind for, a year now, and it's been very refreshing while the rest of the holes on the Titanic, start to leak water. But at least we don't have to talk about the kicker. And now we're in a position where you've alerted me. We got to potentially pay this guy. And you're saying you'd let him walk after the amazing year he had. You're sitting there saying, well, if he wants too much, I'm just going to go back into the quarterback carousel or kicker carousel and try to find me the cheap route. That really had my ears perked up because, man, I really liked what Cairo did and brought to the table. Not to be able to think about or worry about the kicking position for 1 year was honestly refreshing, and I'd like that to continue.
By the way, remember 2019 when it was like all that we cared about was the kicker?
Right.
For those days again.
Yes.
We said that when we started the show because I remember what you showed, and I was just like, oh, man, in 2019, that was all we were worried about was the kicker.
I was showing the picture of JJ draft Phil and I. The guys over at the Tape Never Lies Network, they love to share this picture, JJ, because I had the infamous pimple on my face, which is why you're kind of leaning away from me because clearly you thought I had herpes or something like that. But yes, back then it was all about the kicker. Yeah, Phil and Shane, those 2 troublemakers are always up to no good. And I'm sure Shane will have a funny tweet along with our little conversation about them now. But yes, at that time, it was all about the kicker. We thought everything else was okay, and now it's the reverse. The kicker is the only thing we got right, and now everything else needs to be fixed. But yeah, your thoughts, JJ, on potentially losing Cairo or what you would do in this offseason situation with him.
So I'm looking up something right now, but so last year in free agency, there were two kickers who got multi-year contracts. Dan Bailey, who sucked for the Vikings. I mean, he was a disaster. He, like, those extra points that he missed, he was really bad. And then the other guy was Greg Zuerlein, who got a multi-year contract from Dallas, 3 years, $7.5 million. Bailey got 3 years, $10 million. Zuerlein hit 83% of his field goals for the Cowboys last year. It's not very good.
That's surprising because he's normally money.
Well, that's what I'm getting at here is, like, you say a kicker is normally money, unless you're talking about, like, Justin Tucker. Kicking is so weird year to year. Dan Bailey made 68% of his field goals a year after making 93% of his field goals. If Cairo Santos wants anything more than a 1-year, $2 million contract, say, bye-bye, all right, we're good. Because the Bears don't have a ton of money to guarantee to a kicker who, by the way, is no guarantee that he's going to be good again. I love the story of Cairo Santos last year. He's a good guy, like a guy you can root for. Absolutely.
Yeah, he had a lot of swagger. He kind of reminded me of Robbie, the way he, not just swagger as far as stepping up and the bravado you have when you're about to make the kick, but just the way he worked the wind angles. You got to have you got to have confidence to kick at Soldier Field. If you're one of those timid kickers, like you're alligator legging it, you know, you're gonna push it or curl it because that wind, you got to be ready to really play that wind and know what, you know, be convicted in what you're about to do. And I felt like he had that, and that's a rare. You know how rare it is when with even punters, Brad Maynard. You know, we've had so many different kickers throughout. You know, even before Robbie, we had a great kicker before Robbie. Man, the name was just on the tip of my head. Paul Ettinger, and that's what I mean. It's like he's got that look, and I hate to say I'm not just going to give him anything, but I mean, I'd hate to see him walk out the door. That definitely had my ears perked up when you said that.
So Cairo Santos, 2018 to 2019. Do you want to guess what his field goal percentage was?
64.
I'm guessing 64 too.
66. He made 2/3 of his field goals, 66.7%.
Well, I know it wasn't good.
That's why he was on the market, but he figured it out.
One more thing here. Would you guys like to guess the difference in field goal percentage from Dan Bailey in 2019 to Cairo Santos in 2020? What is the difference?
Ooh, that's
Jake,
a good question.
You're the smarter one.
No, you stole my answer last time, so you go first.
20% difference.
No, obviously.
No. This is the year that Bailey was good.
Oh, okay.
Let's say a 4% difference.
That's what I'm going to go with. 4%.
0.7% difference.
Wow.
Dan Bailey made 93.1% of his kicks in 2019. Cairo Santos made 93.8% of his kicks in 2020.
Does it say from a long 40 or 50 plus for those two?
You know, I closed out of those tabs because Pro Football Reference has a tendency to ruin my computer. Look, the point is, like, the Bears have so many other needs that, like, kicker is not going to be the difference between the Bears making and missing the playoffs. That's very rare. Years where that happes. I know we're still scarred by Cairo Santos. I can think of
Cody.
One team, or Cody Parkey.
Yeah,
I can think of like one team that I've been like, I'm pretty sure the kicker blew it, and that was the Chargers in 2018 when Younghoe Koo, by the way, Pro Bowl kicker this year for the Falcons, missed like so many field goals that basically like knocked the Chargers out of the playoffs. Like, if he had made those late field goals, I think they would have – I don't know if they would have made it or not. They would have been right there. Kickers are just so random year to year. It's sort of like – I kind of liken it to like a closer in baseball where, like, if you're committing money to a closer, you better be really, really damn sure you're getting Mariano Rivera or Trevor Hoffman. Because all of a sudden, like, oops, Craig Kimbrell sucks now. Like – That is, it's similar with kickers that there's so much variance year to year that committing even $2 million guaranteed would be a lot of money with the Bears cap issues.
Yeah.
That is just to me, that's risky. Like, I think you could go to, $2 million-ish in that range. But, if we start talking about a multi-year deal for Cairo Santos, I mean,
the Bears had every opportunity during the season, if they really liked it too, to be like, look, before you actually hit the market, because it's been a very, 2020 was a pretty bad year for kicking around the league. We could make a shot at this and see if we can extend you for something rationally, and they didn't take that opportunity. So
and they still have Eddie Pinheiro, technically, right?
Yeah, they still have Eddie Pinheiro.
We forgot about Eddie Money.
We forgot about Eddie Pinheiro.
Poor guy. He won the Hearts with a slightly above average 2019. He won the Hearts because he had a cool nickname. When you start to have the cool nicknames, that's how the punter made it for so many years. He's good.
Everybody has a money reference. Mitch has a money reference. Mooney has a money reference.
Yeah,
has a money reference.
Hold on. When did Pat O'Donnell get the nickname Mega Punt?
Okay, so
his
JJ,
first
you are with
camp, right?
But JJ, when you come on Brags in the Stands, you're with a legend. I hate to toot my own horn here,
yeah,
but I'm gonna do it. Yeah. So one year, when we were at camp, we were, this is before anyone knew who I was, and I just go to camp and make a scene when I was there on that day. And we were out there having fun, heckling the reporters. In fact, that day was when I asked Zach Zaidman and Jeff Dickerson who would win in a fight, and all the media people started laughing, and then they started arguing for a minute about who would win, and everyone agreed it would be Zaidman because he's the ginger. You can't doubt a ginger. And so then we started going after the punter, and he had this big prowess punting, because he, could boom them so high. And we had such problems with punters at that time. So people were just yelling out all these different nicknames. And I didn't come up with the nickname because we were all saying funny ones. And it came off of the kicker you mentioned from the Rams, where everybody called him Legatron.
Yeah.
So then somebody yelled that, and they were like, no, he needs his own one. And then finally one guy, there was a bunch of nicknames. I can't remember anymore because it was years ago, but somebody yelled Mega Punt. And then our sections just started going Mega Punt, Mega Punt. And we just chanted this for like 20 minutes. And then when he kicked, we all just went crazy. Like it was the Super Bowl. And it stuck that day. We made
how
the
deprived
news.
we are as a fan base.
Yes,
Greg, I did not know that story. Yep. That's amazing.
Yep. NBC 5 News had me and my buddy Hassie. We were in our training camp hats, the bucket hats. I'm sitting there looking all chubby in the bleachers, and they had us there that day. It was a lot of fun. I will always miss my Bourbonnais days. Last year we didn't get any training camp, so it lessened the blow. But for training camp to not be a Bourbonnais anymore is going to be a tough pill to swallow. Yeah. If we ever get back to normal life, I guess I'll just be appreciative of that nonetheless. But yeah, real quickly, JJ, I'm sorry, Jake, you got something?
I was going to say, I'm going to give you first of all, thank you for just chilling with us. You've been with us for such a long time. We really, really appreciate it. I'm going to give you a scenario that's been playing in my mind the past couple of days, and let me know if you're Ryan Pace, are you pulling the trigger? So the Ravens have the 27th overall pick in this year's draft. Allen Robinson, in a franchise tag situation, are you trading Allen Robinson for the 27th overall pick if you're Ryan Pace, if that conversation took place and they were interested?
Yes. If you can get a first-round pick for Allen Robinson, you go do it. I think he probably a tag and trade gets him a second. If a team says, man, like we missed out on Galladay and Fuller and Godwin and all these guys, like the Ravens who, need a wide receiver. And they're like, all right, you know what? Fine. 27th overall for A-Rob, will you do that? Like, I'm like, yeah, heck yeah, I'm doing that. You get 2 first-round picks.
I feel like it's a no-brainer for the Ravens. But yes.
I mean, you then have to deal with you trade for him. You got to sign him to an extension. I would have to think. So I don't know if it's a no-brainer for the Ravens. They probably try to package like a second before they went to a first. And the Bears would have to have some, they'd have to be fielding some other calls for him at that point. But I do think that, hey, if a team comes to the Bears with a first for A-Rob, you take that deal and you say, all right, yes, this is our best offensive player, but with 2 first-round picks, we can make our team better.
Yeah.
That would be a legitimate thought.
And I think at least if you're a Harbaugh or John Harbaugh and you're seeing what Stephon Diggs did for that Bills defense, or I'm sorry, for the Bills offense, coming in on a trade from Minnesota, and how that team was able to elevate, and you have a window with Lamar Jackson and he's your guy, and you're thinking that maybe you can move or something like that. I think a situation like that might benefit the Bears.
The difference on that, Jake, though, is that Diggs' contract is like pretty cheap by wide receiver standards. When the Bills traded for him, they didn't have to sign him to an extension like the Ravens would have to with Allen Robinson. You trade for A-Rob, $4.84 minimum is what you're giving him.
Very
Whereas Diggs is like pretty vastly underpaid for how good he is. That I also think probably helped the Bills part with that first-round pick in a way that it might be a little more dicey for another team to part with the first, especially when the wide receiver market is going to be relatively saturated with top-end talent. Now, if A-Rob hits the free agent market, he's going to be at the top of that list. Like,
absolutely.
He, in my opinion, he will be the best receiver available. But teams will look at it and say, well, if we have to trade an asset just to sign him, why don't we go a half a rung below and just sign Kenny Golladay?
Fair.
People are like, oh, I can't believe Khalil Mack only had 8 sacks or whatever. Khalil Mack's still really freaking good. I'm not worried about him.
I love it. That's my favorite. That's my favorite clip from the House of L. Because I'm a master mimic mouth guy. I always am mimic when someone's irritating me. I bust out the me. I do it to everybody. My wife has to deal with this on a daily basis. I'm a child. So when you did the mimic voice, I love.
People are like, oh, I can't believe Khalil Mack only had 8 sacks or whatever.
I can't believe it's my favorite. It was my favorite. One guy trying to poach Allen Robinson from the Bears is our backstabbing additional co-host here, Johnny B. And before we let you go and bring Johnny B into our conversation here on Brags in the Stands, I did want to get your thoughts on the Super Bowl. You see Johnny B adorned in the Chiefs gear. He's our diehard Chiefs fan and gambling aficionado. Him and his wife were down there for the tough loss. But before we get to Johnny's thoughts on the game, JJ, what were your thoughts on the Terminator, the GOAT Terminator taking down the baby GOAT in Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl down in Tampa?
I didn't realize Todd Bowles was white.
I didn't read that. Was that
Tom Brady didn't take down Patrick Mahomes.
Did I say Todd Bowles?
No, you said that. You said.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah. That was
Tom Brady won that game.
A combination of the defense, obviously, a second string offensive line by the Chiefs, and the Zebras. Brady was throwing 5-yard passes. I don't know if you didn't watch the game or what.
Brady did exactly what he had to do to win that game. That's why he's the greatest quarterback of all time.
I tried to warn Johnny B.
Well, first of all, that picture is not even from the Super Bowl.
I know. Right. It's from the loss. But go ahead, JJ.
But to do what the Bucks did to Patrick Mahomes and have Patrick Mahomes play like quite literally the worst game he's ever played. Like, oh my God, like Todd Bowles was my Super Bowl MVP, and it is criminal that he's not going to be a head coach again this year because that dude's really smart. And for any team that was looking to hire just a smart football guy, I said this, by the way, on the Under Center podcast before last season ended, that I would be totally cool with Todd Bowles being the Bears' next head coach. And I got laughed at.
Well, I think that benefits the Bears because they're a lot.
And now he can be their head coach.
Yeah, but a lot of these guys, who is I can't.
Sorry, Chubbs. I'm an idiot. Yeah, the Jets were bad when he was their coach. Sorry, dude. Yeah, Tom Brady played a perfect half in the Super Bowl. I'm also an idiot.
Get him, JJ. I got to deal with Chubbs all the time.
There's a lot of interesting guys. Even like a Brian Dable, who I thought did really well. There will be a lot of interesting head coaching candidates next year when the Bears, in my opinion, inevitably fail. But that is at least a little silver lining for that.
What'd you think of this guy?
I love that guy did it because he was trying to make money off Bovada.
And then he got screwed out of the money. So that was a true story, huh?
Damn mouth shut.
You got to keep your mouth shut if you're like that.
Dude, take the $500 hit, keep your mouth shut, don't let anyone know your identity, and cash in on that illegal sports book.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I guess though, if you're like dumb enough to place a bet on yourself to go streaking in
this guy isn't.
I mean,
he's clearly a God-fearing man.
This man is clearly.
What does that say?
It says
novel
Vitali.
No. Oh, Revelation.
Revelation.
Yes. On his tattoos.
Did he like put like Jesus's nipple where his nipple is? Like what?
That looks like Jesus' nipple.
He did. He put the Jesus nipple right where his nipple is. That is genius. And then targeting. This is clearly. I thought the NFL was trying to get rid of targeting.
Well, yeah, he gave himself up at the 1.
That's the other thing too. Yeah. You get all the way.
Dive for that.
What is this? What's worse, the Tennessee Titans Super Bowl where he fell short of the 1, or this guy falling short of the 1?
Kevin
That's
Dyson,
a tough one.
Yeah.
First of all, why is he sliding? He knows he's going to get hit. I mean, he should be going to score just so he can say that he made it the whole way.
Exactly.
End zone. Number 2, those had to be some of the worst people chasing him I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, seriously, like I was hoping one of the players would have I always love when the player lays it down.
It's a nice spin move there. Come on, But Greg, then finish the play.
Greg, you're a Cubs fan. Do you remember? I remember this very vividly. A game where Bob Howery was pitching, and a fan ran onto the field and went up to Bob Howery and like basically went like this at him, and all I could imagine was the fan going up and be like, "Why do you suck so much?" That was my.
I don't remember that, but Bobby Howery is a nice throwback Cubs name right there, as we pitchers and catchers reported today. So that is that's a good feeling vibe thought there. No, but the Cubs, the fan that ran on the field and tried to, the most infamous one is the one that tried to burn the American flag, and then the Cubs player came up and ripped the flag out.
I was thinking of the other infamous on the field incident in Chicago.
What, the White Sox guys? Yeah, that was a tough one too. I'm not gonna bash the White Sox over here because I don't get White Sox fans coming at me. Last year I dared say get rid of the L flag, and and I got people losing my mind. You're on the house.
It's hard to state that as a Cubs fan and people take you seriously. If you were a Sox fan saying get rid of the L flag, then people might listen a little bit. But still,
it's just such a bummer that the big market San Diego Padres also had to cut costs this offseason.
Yeah, right.
Of biblical losses.
One last thing I want to ask you or talk to you about before you go, JJ. While you were covering the Bears this year, you were doing something each game that I found interesting. And here we're always big in the charitable, efforts. We're always trying to give back here at Brags in the Stands. And you were always doing this after each game for the Breakthrough organization. And, for each tweet you were, giving some money for the social justice movement, and maybe speak a little bit about this organization and kind of what you've been trying to do and what they're all about.
Yeah. So I wound up being over $1,100 to Breakthrough during the season, which, by the way, Lawrence, to circle back to how awesome of a dude Lawrence is, Lawrence matched that total with a donation. So with other people who matched my weekly donations, I think we raised over $3,000 for Breakthrough, which they do a lot of really, really great work in East Garfield Park, which is, one of the hardest hit areas of the city by poverty, by racial injustice, by the pandemic. So, I wanted to partner with an organization that helped out in the community of Chicago, I'm from Oak Park, so not all that far from the West Side, from Austin, from East Garfield Park and all that. And, they do a lot of work. They have a food pantry that does a lot to feed people on the West Side. They have a men's center, a women's center. They have a lot. It's a really impressive organization. So as I was doing my research into, how I wanted to continue the conversation and, do what I could to help with social justice during the season, I settled on them because the thing I was thinking about, Greg, was like, it was right around the shooting of Jacob Blake. I was trying to tweet about football that day, and I was like, this is so stupid. Like, football doesn't matter at all right now. And I was like, God, like on game days, like I'm going to be tweeting 50, 60, 70, 80 times. That's a distraction from the problems that face our country. So how can I try to turn that distraction into something that's at the very least, helps with, some of the people who need it the most. And
sure.
I settled on Breakthrough. I didn't expect to get laid off at the end of it. But even if I knew that I was going to be without a job a couple weeks after the season, I still would have done the same thing because it was so important to do that. And it was so cool to see how many people reached out and, matched donations, gave what they could. And then, obviously at the end of the season, how much Lawrence stepped up to the plate with that was really, really neat.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, I
Great
definitely
work.
wanted to put shine a spotlight on that because I appreciated that work you did, and I'm gonna make a donation myself to it in your. No, absolutely, man. Because like I said, the stuff I've done with Kaplan, with Bernie's Book Bank, and my good buddy Dave Mays. I'm always working hand in hand with the Versus Cancer organization, and just whatever. Because to me, so social media is what you make of it. There's a lot of evil in social media, but you can make a difference. And in a year like this year, where people aren't connected, we can't see each other. We're only on this either on Twitter or on a stream, and it's just not the same. So to be able to use that social media platform and then directly help people out, because to me, the two things that help bring people together in such a divided world and country that we live in are sports and music. And with this pandemic going on, both those industries have taken such a huge hit. You got to scratch and claw just to get to a game now, or there is no concerts anymore. So there is no music being played for anyone. So I just believe that right now it is as important a time as ever for people to try to pay it forward in different ways and directly help the communities you live in. So I wanted to give a shout out to you in that regard and shine a spotlight on that organization before we cut you loose today.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much, Greg.
Of course, JJ.
That means a lot to me that, hey, you're willing to go do that. And, that's really neat. I wish someday we could just do this over beers, we will in person.
We will.
This summer, be a lot of fun.
I don't know if you're a Cubs or a Sox. Are you a Cub fan or a Sox fan? Are you?
I'm a Sox fan, but I don't hate the Cubs.
Okay,
man.
Johnny B's a Sox fan. So, when the summer rolls around, I do believe at least by the second half of the summer that we'll be able to get back into Wrigley Field. And when we do, we will share a drink and share a few laughs as well, because really appreciate all your support with us.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
we're looking out for you, JJ. If you need any help from us in any way, we're always there for you. Going to support any work you're doing here going forward. Know you're going to land on your feet. I hope you can find something. John Greenberg, what are you doing? I know at The Athletic, they used to poach people like it was guerrilla warfare out here in the media. Where you at, John? Get your checkbook out. JJ needs a job here. Let's go. Chop, chop. Because that's what we're here for. We're going to be, just like Lawrence was a big ambassador for you, I want to be a big ambassador to your work, because everything you've done for us and helped support us here at Brags and the Stands and everything else I've done prior to means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to these guys as well.
Absolutely.
Truly appreciate it, JJ. You're a good man.
I appreciate you guys. Happy to hop on and talk football, talk life, talk whatever we want. You guys are my favorites, and I always tried to make time for Bears podcast when I was on the beat, and now that I'm off, I'm kind of being, I don't want to say a little, more, I'm not turning down opportunities, like our guy Sean Sierra's in there. I want to get on his show again here soon. But you're always one of the guys I'm going to hop on whenever you say, hey man, we want you on the show. I'm there. So
I appreciate that. Means a lot, man. I got your back, JJ, and we are gonna do this Simpsons episode one of these days. I keep talking it up, but we got to watch out because whenever we do anything on streams here, I got to be careful because I'm on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, and they have all these copyright rules. And Montre Guy, also known as Trae Tunes, he's got a Twitch channel, and he's going to be joining us here on Brags and Stands. We're going to do some different co-op stuff, and he's really good with the different things. So I think we're going to have our Simpsons episode where we literally just sit back and watch a Simpsons episode and make some jokes and have some fun. I want you in on it. I want my guy Luis Medina on it. Jake's a big Simpsons guy. Johnny B, are you a Simpsons fan like the rest of us here?
I am not a cartoon fan.
Yeah, man. Johnny B. He's sour.
Luis
lost, so he's just in a bad mood.
Luis's Simpsons Bears mashups that he puts on Instagram and Twitter, like they have me dying every single day.
Yeah, he always nails them
like that.
Hey, Brad, you know the difference between me and you is that you can watch cartoons and I don't care, and I think that's cool that you like it. But as soon as I don't watch cartoons, you gotta be hating on me.
No. I
don't have to worry about my quarterback or my kicker, so maybe that's your bitter, and you just want to hate on me.
Shots fired. Listen. We're dealing with. Listen, we're gonna get to you, Johnny B.
I'm just saying.
He's been riding high for a couple years. Chiefs mania. It got hit hard 10 days ago. I feel bad for him. I was rooting for him. I tried to warn him about the Terminator, but
they tried to steal Allen Robinson.
Yeah, and then you're trying to say, so I don't feel bad. You're right, Jake. This dude's on Twitter.
That's all right. I'll trade him just like JJ.
JJ, this guy's our friend.
I know.
Listen to this crap, JJ. This guy's our friend, Johnny B. And he's been on the show all year, working hard, doing his duck races, doing the gambling. And then as soon as the Super Bowl's over, he goes right to work. He's like Nick Saban, immediately recruiting Allen Robinson on Twitter almost as soon as the game was over. And that's our guy.
He said it. I didn't say it. Robinson said it.
Oh, man. All right, JJ. Well, we're going to let you go.
Tweeting about Mahomes.
We're going to let you go, and we're going to get to arguing about the Chiefs-Bucks Super Bowl. I know Chubbs has got to give Johnny B some crap on the tough loss. But, again, JJ, thank you for all your time tonight. We'll be
so much,
shouting your name to the rooftops. Let us know if you need anything. We'll be here for you.
All right, appreciate you guys. Have fun, and looking forward to the next one.
All right,
take care, man.
That is JJ Stankevitz.
JJ was on for what, 100 an hour and 20 minutes or something?
Yeah, taking up way too much time on Brags.
What a good guy.
Great guy. And, definitely want to talk about his charitable efforts. Wanted to talk about, kind of his journey through the media, Chicago, the Chicago media storm. It's not easy to navigate through that. And,
I wanted to ask him what he was thinking about, he was talking about maybe getting into a new career. Like, what are you interested in? What are you trying to do? I forgot to ask him, but I'm curious, what would a JJ Stankevitz be doing if it wasn't sports? I'd be curious.
That is interesting. And we'll bring him on again. That was definitely some heavy conversation there, because he's got twins at home and young, and it's like, you got a lot of decisions to make. You got a lot on your plate, as a father, and, you want to do these things and do right by your family. And it's got to be scary. Like I said, for us here at Brags and Stands, we're doing this as fun. We're not making money off this. We're doing this just to entertain and have some fun with guys like Chubbs in the chat. It's not something that is money on the table time for us. So I definitely sympathize with him, and JJ is so talented, man. He works hard on the Notre Dame beat, worked hard on the Bears beat. I really hope someone here in the Chicago sports scene is going to step up and give this guy a job, because he's as detailed a reporter and friendly and insightful and, just everything. He gets it on a different level than a lot of these media guys do. And I always try to bring on the ones I enjoy. And JJ is certainly one of those people. So before we get to Johnny B, got to give my guy, Brian Potter, a shout out at Fambags, as we always do here on Brags in the Stands. And yes, we have to thank JJ for giving up an hour and a half of his time that has to set the record for length in time for a guest. So that JJ Stankevitz interview was brought to you by Fanbags Cornhole, Chicago's official supplier of professional cornhole boards and bags. Choose from any of their officially licensed designs or have my boy Brian design a custom set using anything from a selfie to your company's logo. Visit www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS to get 10% off your entire order. That's www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS for 10% off. Step up your game with Fanbags Cornhole. Johnny, you didn't say it.
Oh, I thought Jake was saying it.
I did say it, but
you did?
All say
did he?
Nope.
You did say it. I don't know.
I did say it, yeah. Feel free to jump in.
I didn't want to. I thought Jake was saying it.
Okay, I got you.
I
got
said
you.
it,
You know, we got our guy Trae in the chat. Trae, if you are in the chat, you are welcome to come on the show. So if you want, you can hop in backstage. If you don't, you don't have to. It's laid back, having fun, doing our thing. And now Johnny B is here. It's an extended show tonight. We took a little time with JJ to go over some different things, but now we have our guy Johnny B here, and we got a little bit into the Super Bowl talk, but definitely wanted to do a little more in-depth coverage here because Johnny B, you were at the game. So with that being said, I want to kick it off with a intro, and this is it because, you know, normally I'm just bringing you on and doing my clip this way, but here's a CBS footage reel, and look what we have here. We see Tyreek Hill, and then we see our guy Johnny B live on the screen, pre-game Super Bowl coverage on CBS, and there's our guy Johnny B.
How your lovely wife wasn't in the shot with you? Where'd she go?
Well, the funny thing is a lot of people that haven't been to the Super Bowl, they don't know it's set up a little bit differently than when you go to a regular game. So what they do is they have the gate, which obviously you go into the stadium, but they also have a perimeter set up. So the perimeter is set up, and it's basically like a big area where they hold a lot of activities. They had a bunch of stuff going on, DJs and obviously merch, you know, things like that. The hype, the CBS crew, Miley Cyrus was doing a gig out there somewhere. So when you scan your ticket to get in, you get into the perimeter, and then you get into the stadium, you know, but you're already in. Once you're in the perimeter, you're in. So I was just kind of there. You know, Abs was kind of hanging out, enjoying the sun, winning a couple dance contests with the DJ, winning some stuff with some of our other friends. And I just kind of wandered over by the CBS booth over there, and then Nate Burleson and James Brown kind of waved me over, and they said, "Hey, dude, like we need you." They're like, "We literally are doing a piece on the cheetah like right now in the next 5 minutes." And they said, "We want to either lead or close with your sign." They weren't sure what the producers wanted to do. So they got me over there, and then obviously got me on the video there, and they wanted the sign in the back with the blue sky. Perfect weather day, and that's it. Nate Burleson and James Brown hooked it up once they saw it because they wanted to have it for the piece.
That's pretty cool, Johnny B.
The rest is history.
Yeah,
Nice.
always getting yourself in the middle of the action. That's why I love you, Johnny B. You're inspirational in that way. And there you and Abby are enjoying your time before the game had started. Little did you two lovebirds know what was to come. Me and Chubbs, we tried to warn you two. Well, I feel bad. It's like I'm torn, Johnny, because I feel
right here, Greg.
I feel half bad
because there are rumors on the streets, and I'm not going to say who, that you were not really rooting for Johnny B.
That's a lie.
And you were pulling because you have this love affair with Brady for whatever reason. I have seen it in the past.
Complete lie.
All right,
complete lie.
Blame yourself, sir.
I have always been a Tom Brady fan. I hated Peyton Manning growing up, and I always loved when Tom Brady would stick it to him. I've always, even like I mentioned, you know, on the previous show before the Super Bowl to you and Abby, you know, when you guys came over and Tom Brady came back against the Falcons, I was rooting for Tom in that regard too. And Johnny, if you were not on this show and we were not friends, I rooted for you last year too, because you're my friend. And if I ever go to a Super Bowl, I would think my friends would root for me, even if it was separate from rooting interest, to see my glory of winning a Super Bowl. I want my friends to enjoy that. So it was twofold in that regard. Now, granted, you did get one last year and you are spoiled because, you know, you guys are living the glory life that Bears fans are missing out on. But there is no jealousy from me here. So I'm not a jealous man, Johnny B.
Said there was jealous.
No. I'm just saying. So I had no incentive to not root for you because to me, you're our guy here at Brags and Stands. You're our Super Bowl correspondent. So I wanted to have a fun show where we talked about how you won and you got all these cool highlights. So I was not rooting. I did think that there was a real possibility that the GOAT Terminator was going to come in. And because it was really scaring me about how people were like, there's no chance the Chiefs are going to lose. I'm always the guy that goes against the fray. So had I not known you and had you not been such a big part of what we do here at Brags on the Stands, I probably would have been quote unquote rooting for Brady and possibly even placing money, little side bets on people on the game because that's the way I flow. So but it was no rooting against, none whatsoever. I was not happy to see Tom Brady take you down.
For my buddy Chubbs out there, I don't really consider it an upset special pick. Number one, it was a distinct home field advantage with the home team being there. And I'll say this, it was a great experience. The only thing that stunk obviously was the score, but everything else that led up to it, the weekend.
I'm surprised that more Tampa Bay fans showed up. That was one of my big questions to you, was going to be the whether or not more Chiefs fans showed up. I thought more Chiefs fans would show up, so that wasn't the case, huh?
No, it was definitely more Buccaneers fans, and I'll say this: a lot of them don't know who Jameis Winston is. So that's all you need to know.
Really?
Taking more shots at the Bucs fans.
I asked a lot of Bucs fans who Jameis Winston was, and they didn't know. So a lot of Patriots fans, a lot of people that became fans because of Tom Brady and Gronk, obviously what they brought to the table being, what people call him the greatest ever with all his success. No doubt about it. But
look at Chubbs declaring his love for you in the chat. You're a man. You're a man's man. You got a man's beard, and Chubbs loves you.
I don't sell out. I don't sell out like a lot of people. I'm going to pick my team every time. I knew my offensive line was beat up. I knew we had, Brady and all his aura in the Super Bowl, the refs against us, just Brady himself being clutch. I knew that once we got in the first quarter, it was stacked against us. But I'm ride or die. I'll still put the money down.
Chubbs is calling it an upset because you said the Chiefs were going to blow them out.
No,
they did not.
I got to say that, I mean, did I think that Tyreek Hill was going to drop a pass in the face? No. Did I think Kelsey was going to drop passes? No. Did I think our offensive line would basically just let guys run through that easily?
You know how excited Chubbs has been to get you on to talk to you about this in the chat. He called it. He's been our upset pick guy all year, and he picked the Bucs. I didn't have the courage to pick them on our show. Looking back, I probably should have just picked the Bucs and then prefaced it by saying I was rooting for the Chiefs.
It was honestly, it was one of those games when you would ask people, and I even saw people on television when they would talk about it. People didn't want to pick this game. It was really funny. Like they didn't want to pick one side or the other because this was such an evenly matched game. And well, on paper, it would have been more evenly matched, but
it was just so hard to guess
that the O-line was a big factor and where people were like, it was hard to say, but nobody wants to bet against Mahomes.
Yeah, I would have. I mean, obviously, Mahomes had never lost a game by more than one possession in his NFL career. A lot of people don't know that. That was the first time. I actually would have played the game differently, and I said it in the first quarter to Abs and the other friends that were with us, is I would have came out running the ball. I knew that they weren't going to play the same type of coverage that they did the first time when we smoked them, because we did kind of smoke them, and then we kind of took our foot off the gas, but we were destroying them the first time we played them. And I had a feeling that they weren't going to do that again. Like they were saying, oh, yeah, it was just like we had our timing off. Like they were overselling it almost too much. And I would have actually come out running the ball. And we did have really good numbers running the ball, and I just didn't think we did it enough. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a 7.1 average in that game, and I think if we would have ran the ball early, maybe even after Tyreek dropped that first one that hit him in the face that would have gave us the 7-0 lead. If we would have went and maybe switched it up a little bit and used that run game to slow down the pass rush, I mean, Clyde's getting, 6.5, 7 yards a pop. All of a sudden, you got to start changing your philosophy. We did that against Buffalo the first time, and Hilaire had a career day and rushed for like 160 yards or something like that. I thought we could have did a similar thing against the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl to slow the pass rush down. For whatever reason, they just wouldn't get out of the pass happy game. And, and it hurt him because the O-line just definitely could not handle those.
I'm just surprised because you're a smart man, Johnny B. You're a very, you're a shrill gambling aficionado. So you don't let your heartstrings pull at you when you're making these picks, but you're also a diehard Chiefs fan. It's obvious. So I was surprised going into the game. And we talked about it a few times. Just because, I was trying to look at it through the lens of a Chiefs fan in a sense, but it just that feeling. You saw the way Tom Brady beat Aaron Rodgers on the road at Lambeau, and it was like, oh boy, this guy, he didn't
have a great game. I mean, let's be honest.
It just always seems to fall into place for Tom. It just always does. In the AFC, you got, the AFC East would always set him up for home field advantage, and it always seemed to fall into place playoff wise. The right team would lose, then he'd face somebody else in the AFC Championship. It just everything always seemed to fall in place. And then he gets into the NFC,
almost
and
like
the exact same thing happened. What?
It's almost like it's scripted, Greg. 10 penalties
it's
in the first half.
Oh, here we go with
10-1. Let me just tell you this: 10 penalties to 1. Including the Honey Badger interception that was on a tipped ball, a one-step, quick 1.5-step drop back. Terry McCauley, former referee, head of officiating NFL. Three of the 5 big penalties were total BS. Dan Orlovsky didn't like any of the penalties called against the Chiefs in the first half. And even one of our arch rivals that cannot stand us, Keenan Allen, said, I don't know what these officials are doing, but obviously Brady's their boy.
Well, I will say that typically when you're playing a Super Bowl, same way as you're playing late in the playoffs or whatever, they let guys play football, and that was the most over officiated Super Bowl I've ever seen by far. Granted, some of them were warranted to a degree, but it was still very overly officiated when these guys should just let them ball.
Like maybe the one in the end zone they called pass interference. Why not just call it illegal contact a couple times?
The ball was in the 5th row. I mean, that's uncatchable pass. But the big one for me was on the Honey Badger interception. That would have changed the game. Possibly. I'm not saying we would have won because obviously the O-line issue was horrendous. But that Honey Badger interception, that was a big one. It was on a tipped ball. And it was on a quick 1-second throw, just a drop back throw. You get 5 yards to Chuck. And of course, they're saying he's holding him. Come on, man. I mean, come on.
And you had some.
That's one thing I liked about the AFC playoffs. I felt like the AFC playoffs really let the guys play throughout the entire playoffs this year. It seemed like in the NFC, for whatever reason, there was a ton of flags, even in, quite a a flags in that game.
There was.
Like, let the guys play. This is football. This is like, it's getting out of hand. We don't want to see the refs. We don't want to see the refs. And of course, 10-1, that's pretty horrendous. I think it was 12-3 for the game. But once the first half, obviously the game was almost over. I did think Andy Reid made a huge mistake in the first half by trying to get the ball back with like a minute left when they were obviously trying to run the clock out, and then he started taking timeouts. I had no idea why in that situation he was doing that with how we started the game. Let them run the clock out, go into halftime. It's an extended halftime. Maybe they lose some of the rhythm, and then you just get back on and, make some adjustments, which for me, big time would have been coming out running the ball, which didn't happen enough in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, not to mention, I mean, and I know this is big excuse territory, but when your kid gets a DUI and hurts a child, and the child is in intensive care, and you're now coaching the Super Bowl, I mean, that's heavy shit. So I'm not trying to make excuses, but
that was big, man. They were talking about it a lot in Kansas City. Hey, man, you can Terry McCauley, Dan Orlovsky, Chubbs. Go look it up, buddy. 10-1 is an embarrassment, NFL officiating.
I'll tell you what. And you had good seat, a good view of the game. This almost looks like a painting, with all the cardboard cutouts, I assume, that are in the seats. Like
great.
It looks like a drawing or something. But I had a few different cool videos that you shared along with us. I'll play them, and then you can give us a little reaction of what that was like in the experience. Here was the flyover. This is a pretty cool video.
Super Bowl.
Love Abby. That's pretty cool. The stealth bomber right over your head.
I will say, obviously, when you're at the Super Bowl, especially in a pandemic, I would have liked to have been lower in my normal section, but just not possible, obviously. But you did get a nice view of that flyover, a little bit higher up where we were, no doubt about it. And it kind of did come over our side of the stadium right there, as you saw in the video. So that was
like snuck up on you a little bit. That stealth bomber.
I was looking for it, like left and right when they were singing, and I'm like, I knew it was coming because I heard about it, and then all of a sudden it just came over that side of that stadium, just like almost like it was in stealth.
Well, they try to time it up. They do the flight pattern, and then they find out how long, like when the singer tests how long they sing, then they line it up to where the flight pattern will line up right when it comes across as they're, saying brave or whatever word they want.
The funny thing is they say, and the home of the, and then we say Chiefs. And
yeah.
I think that they on purpose hesitated it.
Brady did it
because they knew
Brady did it.
They knew that we would do that. Our fans would do that. So like Eric Church was singing, and I forget who the other person was with him, the young lady. But I think they hesitated on purpose to mess our home of the Chiefs up. That was pretty messed up. Abby is proclaiming Brady did it. I don't know if you guys saw that video of Brady drunk. Maybe it's in your top shots after the game.
No.
I heard that was on 2 White Claws. My quarterback would never. 2 White Claws, buddy.
Those were on here. They're actually smearing off ices, and it hit him right in the head. That's all I can take.
Those things can mess you up. No, I have no victory Brady top shots for you. But here's another cool video of your baby boy Patrick Mahomes coming out the tunnel.
Dirty Dan.
That's pretty cool.
How was the energy? Because granted, I mean, I know that it still seemed like there's a decent amount of fans in the stadium, but granted, you were just in Miami the year before, massive packed crowd. Now you're here. I mean, how was the energy? Obviously, I probably can't compare this, but how did it feel?
Yeah, Miami was definitely, the energy was pretty hype. I'm not gonna lie. I did like Miami better. I thought it was a little bit more organized or better organized, and maybe it had something to do with the virus. Maybe it had just to do with so many people being there in a packed venue. Just bouncing off everybody. Everybody's hyped. It was a little bit different in Miami last year. I would say that it was probably 50% Chiefs fans, 30% 49ers fans, and about 20% of random NFL fans or corporate people that got tickets. Sure. A lot of energy, a lot of people everywhere. Now, with this being kind of a home game, and it was definitely more Bucs fans, at least, that don't know who Jameis Winston is, there. It was a little bit different vibe. I thought the party and the hangout before the game was good. It was not as many people. You couldn't get as close to like the CBS where they did the TV. James Brown and Nate Burleson called me over to talk to them. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to even get that close to them. Obviously, I was wearing the mask, although in Florida, as Chubbs will say, it's definitely a freer state. They were making you wear the mask as you came into the stadium. but it wasn't like they were, if you were eating or drinking or whatever, it's not like they were like saying every 2 seconds, to put the mask on. A little bit more strict at the game and at the stadium than definitely in the state, because the state, was pretty wide open. We hung out at the pool and the beach, and, it was definitely, you wear it when you were around people, but definitely it was nice to get a little bit back to normal, at least for the long weekend, for sure.
Yeah, who was the halftime performer last year for Super Bowl?
Jennifer Lopez and Shakira.
Now that was a way better show. Would you agree than
better?
Whatever the weekend's crap was? Like
maybe because I was pissed because I was losing, but I just was bored, and we were actually on the side where the weekend was performing, like by the pirate ship. Mm-hmm. And the guys were wearing jock straps on their faces or something. I didn't know what was happening. But the music is like, I'm not gonna say he sounded bad because I'm not gonna hate like that, but it didn't have any pump up.
Just performance. Yeah,
it just didn't have any pump up. You got Shakira, doing her dance moves, and J-Lo, and the crowd is obviously, it's a full crowd, and it was definitely way better the halftime last year, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm not trying to hate on the weekend's music. I don't listen to it, but it's fine. I'm just saying, performance wise, I was a little bored with it.
Addison enjoyed it, but
and he was supposed to have spent $7 million of his own money on that show.
I heard Abs told me that as well. I was
on what? On the jock straps?
The whole performance was $200,000 at the moment.
I didn't get it. Whatever.
So yeah, no celebrations from me. I felt bad for you guys. I know how diehard you are, and I was rooting for your second Super Bowl victory, back-to-backs, but that now leaves the question, because that was my biggest fear for you, was going, because to me, as a fan that likes to go and play the risk, the game of risk, when you go to a game, Jake knows we went to the Double Doink playoff affair, and you got to pay for the ticket, and then you go because you want to see a happy memory. You don't go to see a sad one. And now you've seen them win the Super Bowl, which to me is the ultimate pinnacle. And then you push your chips back in the table year 2, and they lost now. And it was you got to see Tom Brady, boo-hoo, but you'll be okay, because we all know the Chiefs are going to be okay. But the biggest question to me now is, when the Chiefs, and I'm not even going to say if, because we all know what's coming, when the Chiefs return to the Super Bowl, are you going to be there again?
Well, I will say this, since if you were telling me that when we drafted Pat Mahomes, we'd host 3 straight AFC championship games, winning 2 of those and losing one of them in overtime, obviously, making it to 2 consecutive Super Bowls and winning one of those 2 Super Bowls, I think I would say sign me up immediately, obviously. It never is good to lose. I'm a competitor. I've, played competitively at the high levels, and I don't like to lose. I will say this. I do not regret going. Everything about the weekend was perfect other than the outcome of the score of the game. We had a great time, my friends and I, obviously with Abby, being in the nice weather, getting a break. It was perfect weather. They said it was going to rain, but I'm notoriously known for going out of town and getting good weather. So that's where we were supposed to be at that time. Now, we didn't get the win, but I'm hungrier than ever now after this loss. I got to say, the waiting till September is going to kill me. I'm anxious to see what we do, who's going to get better, healthy again on the offensive line, or what we're going to do. And I think in a weird kind of way, this is going to motivate Mahomes to another level. I really feel like.
Well, that was what I was worried about too. That's why I was rooting for you too. Yeah. You're a big part of this show, and I love the energy you bring here. And I was worried that the loss was going to take a knock into that, and so I'm glad to see that you're re-energized and already focused on the 2021 season.
I'm really energized. And to answer your question, I booked my hotel for Los Angeles, California 2 days ago. Let's go.
See, woo! That's how you know your team has Super Bowl aspirations, when you already know where the location to next year's Super Bowl is, because I know the Bears are never going to get there, so I don't have to worry about it.
We haven't even seen an NFC championship victory for 16 years. Was it 15, 16 years?
What were your thoughts on this here, Johnny B?
Oh, you gotta love that, right?
That was tough. That was a tough one.
I love this. I think it's great. Personally,
I mean, Tyreek did do it to him, and he did backflip in his face after he burned him.
Yeah, Tyreek don't get fined, but Winfield gets fined. What's up with that?
He's gotten fined for a bunch of stuff. Yeah, he got fined all sorts of stuff. Dude.
Look at Abby. I love Abby. She's getting scrappy, and there she is.
Watch out, Greg.
That's her Brags in the Stands debut. How are you holding up, Abby? It was a tough loss, but I know you're just as diehard as Johnny B is when it comes to your Chiefs.
I took it hard. I can't watch it yet.
She has not watched the footage.
I don't blame you. Yeah.
My feelings about Tom. My grandma said, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Good
so
advice.
I not really say anything
I'll
about
say
Tom
that
or his flags.
She does not think Tom plays by the rules.
Why is Tom chasing the honey badger? I'm like, John, why is he chasing? And then we got a penalty? I can't even.
Yeah, he did. He got in Honey Badger's head. Well, then he started picking on him a little bit.
Well, that's the thing that's why I like
that's
the thing that made Abby mad is that they were playing football, which is a very tough and manly sport. I'm gonna say it. Don't add me. Okay. Second of all, a play was made. And then Tom Brady is chasing down the honey badger. Like, why are you chasing down the honey badger?
Doesn't get the
and then
flag.
we get the flag. We get the flag. We do. And Tom Brady has
I tried to warn you two about this guy.
Tom Brady has to call the honey badger 2 days later to apologize. NFL Films has what Brady said on the mics. And they
what is it?
It's Deflategate all over again. They won't release the tapes.
Exactly.
They won't release the tapes.
What did Brady say to the honey badger that NFL Films does not want to release?
What did he say he said? Did he say he said something pretty inappropriate?
Tom drama.
See, you guys I know are diehard Chiefs fans. You're going to
together.
stick up for Tyrann. You're going to stick up for Honey Badger, but he didn't look good. He didn't look good all night. He's cursing and
Greg, I'm trying to hear what Abby's saying.
I'm just saying, Tyrann was cursing and screaming at his teammates on the sideline. Then he's yelling at Tom Brady. Then he goes on Twitter.
Is Greg's skirt coming out here?
It wasn't a good look. It wasn't a good look for the Honey Badger. That's all I'm going to say. Because then he goes on Twitter immediately after the game and is crying about Tom Brady. Then he deletes the tweet. So, I know you guys want to defend your boys, but
all you need to know is Honey Badger, when Tom Brady chased him down, said, "Hey, Tom, remember, at least I know what down it is, bro." Let's go.
Well, hey, you guys will be back. Don't worry. You're the Super Bowl lore that you guys once lived. You will return to that glory again soon.
Oh,
so
God,
I feel bad for you.
Of course you will.
I feel bad for you, but only half feel bad. I feel bad because nobody wants to see
everybody knows that. I texted Johnny after the game and I said, I'm sorry, but dude, they're going to be back. This team is built for success.
And I do appreciate it because I got to say that my people were pretty good. My people were pretty good about knowing when to call me, when to text me. Jake, it was perfect. Your text made me feel a lot better. And my people were good. They understand the passion that I have, that we have for the team. We go all over. We would have went to even more games this year if we could have. And, they know that it's hard. When you put yourself out there, on the show like this or on social media with duck races and all the other stuff that I do, people know. And you get a lot of haters and they say mean stuff. But my people that are in my circle, they did a fantastic job of just saying – not a lot, but just enough to let them know that they felt my pain, and it did lift my spirits.
Well, we're certainly in your guys' corner. Abby, what did you think of the streaker?
Why can't they get him? How did he get that far?
Well,
I'm like, why is no one running after this guy? Like, where is the security? What is happening?
So he actually came in on our side of the field where he entered. So we got to see him get on the field, and I'm like, "Holy cow, there's a guy in the field!" And then we're like,
"Why did he get that far?"
He might go to distance, We were like, and then he slid at the one. I just don't understand. I would have went head first over.
Dive for it.
Look at this dude, the cop totally targeting, leaving his feet, trajectory right at the head. Man, that's
someone had to do it.
That's Chuck Diesel right there, baby.
Nobody else.
I don't know if you guys know.
What do you think about this man of mystery, Abby?
I mean, I like pink, but I don't know.
That is intense. That's a lot. There's a lot going on there for this young man, but he certainly gave the world a moment we'll never forget. So, again, we're always rooting for you guys.
Yeah.
But
And I will say, I want to give you major props because after the game was over and you're into the next week, this man's sending out prizes, doing duck races, doing his thing, not missing a step, and I appreciate that because a lot of times you have a letdown like that. You take a little bit of time and you decompress, but it was Johnny B is nonstop. This man, his motor is unlike any other. So much respect.
That is true.
Appreciate that. The name of the last season, I did a tournament format with elimination, kind of like the NCAA, to go along with the NFL playoffs in general, and I was calling it Dos Lombardis. Stay turned up, my friends. And the only one of the Chiefs that got the Dos Lombardis was the Honey Badger Duck. Ironically win the race. So even though the Chiefs did not get Dos Lombardis back to back, the Honey Badger Duck did win the race. And the prize.
Ducks line up. Ducks line up. Ducks line.
Oh my God, you're terrible at timing, my friend.
I thought he was done.
He's not done.
I thought he was done. And,
you did the same shit that JJ.
I love Chubbs too because he's sitting here in the chat saying he leaves people alone when they're in misery, but yet anytime Purdue starts to go down a little bit, this dude is in my DMs making fun of me, sending me gifts because he knows I'm nervous. So he's a liar in the chat, Abby. Don't listen to him one bit. But no, I'm sorry for you guys, but it has been fun to follow your guys' journey these last couple years. And you got one Super Bowl out of it, so we'll see if you guys
get
can
another one.
I would get back.
I'd bet anything on it.
Don't take nothing for granted in the NFL, but more than likely, you guys will be back to at least one more.
So Johnny, would you trade the 31st overall pick on a sign and trade for Allen Robinson?
31, don't
even think about it, right?
It's kind of weird because it was a fact that Robinson was tweeting about Mahomes and then emojis with the ring and stuff like that. And obviously I made my comment, and Greg, shit, man, he got it so quickly. Man, I couldn't believe the quickness that Greg picked up.
Greg is glued to his phone, so of course
it's kind of funny because I would see Robinson when he came to the Bears with the quarterbacks that they had, and I'd be like, man, this guy is a beast. And I remember using him in DraftKings even sometimes for the daily fantasy when he was on Jacksonville because he put up some numbers. And I'm like, what would this guy do if Mahomes was throwing him the ball? So, yeah, without a doubt,
he'd be a star.
I would give up that 31st pick in a second.
He would be absolutely brutal on any opposing defense if he was on that team. My God. Rich get richer sometimes, so we'll see.
When Sammy is healthy, he's had his moments for the Chiefs, but he's just not healthy enough, and he wasn't healthy in that Super Bowl. Not that it would have mattered with the pass rush, but you get someone that's durable and it can high point some balls and run all the routes. You throw him with Tyreek and then Kelsey underneath. Holy cow, man! That would be fun to watch. So yeah, I wouldn't even have to think about it. I might even throw in a player with it just to get him. That's how much I wanted to see him. Even a couple of years ago when Mahomes first started lighting it up.
Well, I think it's going to be a real possibility for the Bears if they. I expect them to franchise him, and in that regard, I think they'll have suitors to take him off their hands.
Hey, Abby, John, did you guys happen to see this? This is my top shot.
I believe you have a filter turned on in the video settings. You might want to take
we're trying to. Can you hear me, Judge?
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here. She's trying to, but I'm prepared to go forward with it. I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
I can see that, Ponton, I believe.
Yeah, that's great.
I actually did show her a little bit of that, but yeah, man.
I'm not a cat.
I'm not a cat.
I'm not a cat.
And hey, because we always get in trouble about using things that aren't ours, but apparently the judge that released this gave everyone we're media outlet now.
Yes,
I got credentials to games now, so we're technically a media outlet. So apparently we're allowed to use the video. But
isn't it funny? They want you to retweet stuff, but then they don't want you to use it. I never understood that.
It's free promotion. You know,
they want.
The NBA understands it. They don't put any kind of lockdown on their content. If you want to use it, they say go for it. It's like the Wild Wild West. But MLB and NFL, God forbid you ever promote their business for free, literally for free. We're ambassadors for their business, but they don't want it. So, you got to be careful about what you share along. So, that was one of my top shots. Another one that I had that was really, really funny. I don't know if you guys seen this guy's explanation of baseball. It's a German guy that explained baseball. It's a little lengthy, so I might not play the whole thing. Here it is.
This game is the most confused game of that I'm knowing. I enjoy football. You say soccer. We have a ball, we have a net, we have a net. Kick in, boom. You kick it, did ball go in net, boom, point, we are finished. Next time, now we go again. Ball, point, boom, net, ball, net, done. No, baseball. Oh, okay, we have some pillows. We have some pillows on the dirt, and then we have some grass. And then we have people that stand all around to make a grabbing of the downstairs, grab of crouch, look around. Then man with stick is there. And then man look at stick man and look at man with glove and he make like this one. For like 1 minute with a man. And then he boom, he throw a ball to the stick man. And the stick man may hit. If he make a miss of 3 times, then out. But if 4 times the throw is bad, boom, then he may walk to a pillow. Or if he make a hit of ball and it go to the side of the paints, then it is more hits and hits and hits. But if he hit a ball very far, then he may run on all the pillows around the pillows. And sometimes someone is stealing the pillows. And sometimes a man is, if you hit a man with a ball, then he may run to the pillows. And many people, and the boys in the trench, they sit in the trench and they look around and they spit in the hat and then clap and spit. And then they run to the field. And then clap and spit. And then they run to the field. And then they make a trade in 9 times, but time out on the 7. After 7 times of run on field, everyone sing a song about popcorn. And then they do more hits and throws. What?
That's Flula Borg with an unbelievable description of baseball.
He's not wrong.
So ridiculous.
Well, Abby was pretty high level softball catcher, even though she's tiny. She has a cannon. So
really?
She played some high level catcher.
No kidding.
The dish. The
She
plate.
sat behind the plate.
On the pillows.
So it was just a plate.
Yeah, I caught that a week ago on Twitter. I was like, oh, that's a top shot. The Cubs actually on their TikTok, they put pictures to all his descriptions. It's a really good usage of the old TikTok app. You'll have to check that out. I would have shared it here, but I'm tired of getting copyright claims from one D'Lo Brown interview that I got one last night on my way home from the Purdue game. I got another one. I've gotten 11 from that one show. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry.
Gotta hide the logos, man.
I got in a little bit of trouble with some copyright stuff. I didn't even do it, and I got in trouble. So it is a real thing.
Man, they're ridiculous, and they're robots, so they come at you about this stupid stuff.
Damn robots.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So, how's the shoveling been going for you guys? You guys,
I knocked out that shovel in all alone, man. Big long driveway. I was actually sweating like profusely. That's how fast I was going. I would say it was 15 inches.
Power hour?
No.
Because the one time I came over, you kind of were letting it go, But this is some snow you can't ignore. You can't just let this go.
Yeah, well, Big Red can get out, but her car, even though it has 4-wheel drive,
I would be plowing.
Her car is low to the ground. She has an Audi. It's low to the ground. It gets through all the snow, but when it's that deep, there's no clearance at all. So yeah, I shoveled it. No big deal.
Well, people give me crap for shoveling my yard, but I finally have a reason for it, and this is it. Ready, buddy? Go on, take your time. This is how you take care of your dog, ladies and gentlemen. Give him a nice pee trail, then a nice spot to go. We'll let him do his business. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you shovel your yard. That's how you do it.
I will say it's kind of weird. I kind of actually enjoy shoveling. I don't know why.
I love shoveling.
Yeah, it's getting a little out of hand all of a sudden, because there has been a lot, and I've always been a townhome type guy, condo type guy. So this is the first actual year that I've back when the people would come to do it for me. Sometimes I would shovel, sometimes I wouldn't, but now obviously you have to, and I actually enjoy it. So I don't hate it.
See, you're starting to understand the artwork behind it. There's a science and a craft to it. Some people like Chubbs take it for granted. I don't, and I shovel for my dog. I give him a nice. I'm getting a little feedback. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I hear it.
Do you hear it, Johnny?
I mean, a little bit. It sounds all right. It sounds pretty good. I mean, maybe it's just your voice.
Yeah. It's nope. I think it's Johnny.
Me?
Let me mute you for a second. Now talk.
It's Johnny.
It's Johnny.
Yeah, I think it is Johnny. Here, try.
Hey. Yep, it's Johnny.
You guys sound clear to me.
I don't know why you say goodbye. I say hello. Do you like that?
Greg's internet has had issues.
It's you.
You guys are loud and clear.
All right. We gotta. There we go. Something happened. It's like, I think when you're playing something through your computer, it's also picking it up in the microphone, and it's creating a cycle. That's why we got headphones on. But it was fine, so I don't know why it's doing it now.
That makes no.
And now it's fixed. See, so we fixed it.
All right, fantastic.
Well, hey, sometimes you have technical difficulties, and luckily, only Chubbs is the one that has to deal with it. So,
our broad audience, yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, you never know, because earlier I saw our guy Luis Medina was in the chat while we were having a good interview with JJ Stankevitz, and that was a surprise. So you just never know who's in the chat. And you want to respect your audience. And there's a lot of people that watch later. And, those people, like to watch when they're at, work and stuff like that. So you never know. Some people might hang out longer than you realize. You just never know, really, at the end of the day. I've learned through my podcasting years that people, you'd be surprised how much people appreciate listening to this kind of banter. I truly have been surprised that anybody wants to hear me speak, because for most people, that's a taxing, a taxing chore. But you guys seem to enjoy it. Well, maybe a little bit. But I'll tell you one thing I am enjoying is pitchers and catchers reported today. It's a graphic from our guys from Bleacher Nation. Really excited for that. We got Jake Arrieta back for the Chicago Cubs, my Cubbies. I don't know how much, he's going to make a difference as far as making the Cubs back to a World Series champion. But I did want to shout out my guy, Danny Rocket, who's a friend of this show, who I'm going to be bringing on here real soon. He actually was the first to report on Jake Arrieta on the Sun Ranto show, which all of you that are Cub fans, you should definitely, if you enjoy this show, that is like the Cubs version of he is the fan in the stands for Cubs fans, and he is extremely talented. Like Jake just said, really great musician, does a lot of great fun stuff, and had a great Cubs fan show on NBC Sports Chicago. But here is Danny Rocket breaking the Jake Arrieta news days before John Morosi or anybody else had it. Had to give my guy Danny Rocket a shout out.
We're going to save this for the end of the show. Those of you that have stuck around, we're going to tell you that I can confirm a rumor. I can confirm a huge rumor is that Jake Arrieta, big. We're going to save this for the end of the show. Those of you that have stuck around, we're going to tell you that I can confirm a rumor. I can confirm a huge rumor is that Jake Arrieta is absolutely coming back to the Chicago Cubs. And you heard it here first. Okay. Like, not everybody knows this, but we've been privy to a rumor. And it was such a rumor that I wrote a song, and nobody's heard the song yet because I was waiting. But now it's going to come out now. And
we got photoshops done. We got songs.
We're ready to launch for when this goes. And since that there's only a few viewers left, we can 13 of you are very lucky to know that this may happen.
So there's our guy Danny Rocket breaking the Jake Arrieta news days before anyone in Chicago had it. So I had to shout out my guy, Danny. Yeah, great job there. Chubbs actually watches the show for Jake.
Oh, that's such a lie.
Well, and that means it's bad news.
Anybody, Johnny is the man's man, so
he did profess his love for Johnny B earlier.
Yeah,
so basically, he loves Johnny B. He's here to watch the show for Jake. Then what the hell are you? You ain't here for me to give me shit about Purdue. Is that it?
will say for Chubbs? Even though he picked the upset special or whatever, he did not, rub anything in my face. He was very great and very kind to my suffering.
Chubbs is very gracious, man.
So I appreciate that. So, maybe he's just here to go against you, Greg, because he is University of Illinois and you are Purdue.
Yeah, he is a bum in that way. I was lucky enough yesterday to go back to Purdue, second game with the press credentials, like we're big media stars over here at Brags in the Stands. Got to see them play Michigan State, and Purdue had a big bounce back win. Sasha, still trying to get his legs under him from coming back from COVID. Hasn't had quite the success he had prior to, but the team is chipping away at the wins, trying to make the NCAA tournament. It's a fun group. They, like I said, 5 freshmen, no seniors, and battling through the Big Ten. Travion Williams, this guy that I caught a nice little snapshot of him throwing one down in pregame warmups. This guy is an absolute beast, lighting it up for Purdue right now. I'm going to do some Purdue shows next week, maybe one next week with little basketball coverage, and we'll get more into Travion Williams and what he's doing here for the Purdue Boilermakers. But yeah, it was a lot of fun yesterday to go back to Mackey and cover the Purdue Boilermakers in the stands here for Brags in the Stands. And we're going to bring you some more coverage here for the NCAA tournament as we get closer. You see here Travion with a big throwdown, and Travion actually retweeted this video last night. So we appreciate you. And, we appreciate Purdue getting back on track. I know Chubbs. Well, yeah, you might not, Jake, but that's okay. Nobody's perfect.
I don't care. Okay.
Chubbs is my ultimate hater, always sending me stupid gifts in my DMs every time Purdue falters just a little bit, but his Illinois Fighting Illini can barely beat the damn Northwestern Wildcats, but I digress. So, that's it. That's all I got for tonight. I'd like to get Trae Tunes back on here. He had some internet issues tonight, with all this cold we're having up here in the Midwest, and even Jake having internet and power issues down in Austin.
Water, gas.
Yeah, he was lucky, honestly, to even join us. And then he was lucky enough to join us for a 3-hour show tonight. So lucky Jake. Hey, but you know what? Day. I'm not sure what your plans are going forward. Obviously, Jake, you're always a staple here at Brags in the Stands. But, you know, we had talked about you transitioning, you know, as we enter the off season to the backdrop. Are you, you know, I am going to effort some different Bears guests, and obviously you'll probably pop in for those, but are we thinking that this is going to be the start of your hiatus? Because Chubbs needs to know, you know, he comes here for Jake, and so he needs his Jake update.
Everybody
does. It stands.
I got that turtle energy, so you got to have, you know, it's a hard thing to lose in the show, but yeah, I'll be on taking a hiatus. I'm not a baseball guy. I'm not a basketball guy. I have my wife and I are expecting our first child in 2 months. So lots of things, lots of good things happening. But yeah, I'm going to take a little break, but I'll still pop in for Bears stuff. I need to practice. I need to get back on my my music studying and prepare for this new baby, and could be a busy couple months.
Yep, that's the big news, Chubbs, is Jake's having a baby. So we're really excited for you and Elizabeth. You know, if you're going to name him Greg, you know, Gregory Hovanek has a nice ring to it.
Johnny,
yeah.
Flip a coin. We can for one of the shows, we'll flip a coin, and then either Johnny B or Greggy B.
I'll tell you what, I'll get a goldfish, and we can flip a coin for whether it's named Greg or Johnny, and then we'll leave it at that.
I like this.
How about that?
I'm excited for it. I'm excited for you, man. We've done a lot of hard work here at Brags in the Stands this year, getting this thing.
Yeah, it's been like what? It's been like 8 months.
Yeah,
of doing this, right?
Yeah,
like, man.
Yeah, and it was like a whirlwind at first, putting a lot of hard work into stuff.
We had to make all the logos and the brandings, and I mean that was the whole month of August.
That was what was fun. I wanted to get into this. I know we've been here for a while, but this is honestly, Chubbs, this is where it all started. You know, I mentioned to Jake that I thought about maybe going on my own, and this was the first graphic he kind of threw together. And it started to evolve, and it's funny, Johnny, because you know, Jake's the perfectionist. I would have just taken.
I always do a ton of different renditions.
He made this, and I was like, perfect. Let's go. You know, we got a show. Let's roll. And you know, then he had some different prototypes, and you kind of see the evolution of it. I wanted the cursive insignia, almost like a Mitchell and Ness. At first was my thought process, but then this is where it got funny, Johnny B, because then he came up with this one, you know, a little side action of the bleachers.
Little class, yeah, it's a kind of little you know, it's a little abstract, you know, it's a little playful, and the colors are nice, you know, so hey.
And you see, now you're peeling back the mind of a graphic design extraordinaire, because this is what Jake does for a living. He's a graphic designer, and so he's going to be the perfectionist. But for me, I'm also somewhat of a perfectionist. So now we get to this point, and I'm like, the bleachers, at first I couldn't like tell they were bleachers, and they looked to me. Have you ever seen Hercules, Johnny B, the cartoon movie? I know you don't watch cartoons, as you said earlier, but Hercules.
No, I watched cartoons as a child. I just don't watch cartoons as an adult.
Oh, forgive me. Well, yeah, I do. So to me, these didn't look like bleachers. They almost looked like fire lamps in Hercules.
Well,
you know,
the fire would be.
Well, that's just where my mind's eye had it.
He says it's the cauldrons from Hercules. That's what he says it looks like. So the most abstract thing you could possibly think of.
Right.
They look like the cauldrons from Hercules.
So this clearly
is how Greg's mind works.
So this is where Jake's mind goes, because then I say this stupid little thing, and then the next day he throws me a mop of Hercules bad.
That's James Woods, I think.
Yeah, it's Hades.
Yeah.
Fits well. And you know what's funny is you know, it's like this just goes to show you how, because this looks great, you know, it almost looks so natural, you know. Evil Brags so in the Stands. And then the all-time best one, Johnny B, was Brags in the Stands. I don't know if you could pick out.
Is that a Super Bowl victory or something? What is that?
And I like pretty much like was pissing my pants.
I'm not gonna lie, guys. The first game that we saw when Mahomes was QB1, we were in LA at the soccer stadium that Chargers were playing at, and after 5 minutes, I felt exactly like that.
This was Johnny B. The minute he laid his eyes on Mahomes, this is my future. You know, I mean, one day when I finally find my guy, my quarterback, and one day we're gonna have this. I don't know what's happening here. We got our guy here sniffing around, and then this is when it starts to finally take its form.
Yeah.
You know, and you see kind of the bleachers in the Chicago. I really wanted the skyline in the backdrop.
Yeah, he really wanted the skyline.
I was obsessive about it. You know, and then we had, of course, you know,
all these renditions. None of this, and it was like, okay, but none of this is really nailing the idea home. So I was like, I need to go to work on a new logo after these, because none of them, I wasn't satisfied with anything, you know?
Yeah.
So
and finally now we start to find our groove here. And we almost are there. It's like
we got empty bleachers though. It was like we can't have empty bleachers on a logo because that doesn't really speak well.
And this is what I mean. This was like a 3-week kind of session, and I really got to appreciate, you know, what. Say that again, Johnny B.
Quite an impressive array of work.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it took a while, but everything looked a bit too amateur, and still I started taking it into this realm of like, okay, I want to make it needs to be like an actual team logo ish sort of thing. So then this was this, and we kicked it around, and then I was like, you know, I'm gonna find a stadium instead of stands, because then I don't have to put people in it, and it tells a story. Like, yeah, it could be full, it could not be full, but whatever. And then here we are today.
Oh yeah. Then we found it and add a little color to give it a little life, and voila, we got ourselves a show. Brags in the stand, just that simple. You know, you find the graphic, and then it really all fell into place after that. You know, we just started having some fun, did a fantasy football thing, and just tried to find our groove. And, you know, Jake, you know, truly really can't tell you how much I appreciate that. I know I tell you that all the time, but I will continue to sing your praises on this show for everything you've done for me to help me get to this point. Truly cannot thank you enough. It means a lot to me to have this space of my own, just like JJ talked about with what he's doing now and where his mindset is. You know, it's nice to have this. It really is. And, you know, for everything that has happened in the last few years with all this crazy media stuff that I'm trying to fake it till I make it kind of thing, you know, to have this here really makes me comfortable and excited for, you know, what I can do and stretching my arms out and trying to, you know, figure out where I want to go with this. I you know, to have my own thing is empowering, and you did that. You empowered me in a big way, and we'll always appreciate you for that. We had Trae Tunes knocking in the backstage back and forth. I was going to let him hop on and say hi. But you know, I did want to kind of go through the we were talking about joking around with the logos.
Yeah, it's fun to go back and take a look at that.
Of course, especially when you have things like this. We couldn't not touch on the
it's like a baby's arm with the fist.
Yeah, a baby holding an apple.
Yeah, there you go.
We've come a long way from little Brags in the stands to what we are now, and we're only getting bigger. We're only getting better. It's only going to get more fun from here as stadiums start to open back up and we start to really.
I'm hopeful. I'm very, very hopeful. My dad actually got his first COVID vaccination today, which is great. I think, you know, that's good. Things are starting to move in that direction to where I think hopefully by end of summer, maybe this is a very, very different world we're living in.
Absolutely. I
had from a guy that I know that does some stats in Indiana for 3 counties. He's a surgeon, and he does COVID stats for 3 counties. And he is saying to me, between natural immunity and vaccination immunity, he is feeling possibly semi back to normal-ish end of August.
Hey,
it seems like it's going to be a thing where, you know, the surplus of vaccinations by the time summer rolls around is going to be almost anybody can get them. At least that's what we're being told. So if that's the case, I feel pretty optimistic that we could go to a Bears football game this fall.
Well, there's a fun guy in the ESPN 1000 Twitch chats and Trae Tunes' Twitch chats. He pops in our shows chats every once in a while. His name's Johnny Vegas. He's from Vegas. That's why they call him Johnny Vegas. So you, Johnny B, would probably get along with this guy. And he said Vegas heard end of September, early August too. And I got to tell you, that's who I'm going to watch for when they know. That's because March Madness in Vegas were some of the first big business type brands to shut down. Like before it was a trendy thing, they were shutting down, before it was like the follow the leader thing last year. So when Vegas opens everything back up, that'll be a good tell for what the rest of the country is. And I do think it'll be post July, somewhere around there. I'm hoping for sooner, but I'm trying to be realistic and not get my hopes up. But I do think at some point this summer it will. And then that'll just make this show even more fun. We're all people that love going to the games, doing experience stuff. We got baseball season, and then of course, NFL will be fast approaching again next year. So really looking forward to it, and wanted to give you your proper shout out, Jake. You're not done. You're gonna come back.
It's just a regular thing. I won't be regular each week, but I'll definitely be popping
whenever you want. Just like when Trae popped in here on the backstage. You guys are always welcome. So you can either not come or come. I don't care.
Like the NFL off season is basically never ending. It seems there's always something to talk about at some point in time. So you'll see me. We got me around.
Matt Miller, the NFL draft man. I've been talking to him about coming on here in the future. Jeff Joniak is someone I consider friendly with. Chubbs was giving him crap in the chat earlier. I completely disagree with any negative thoughts when it concerns Jeff Joniak. He's one of the best to ever do it, and I'm going to be bringing him here on Brags in the Stands here eventually. So that'd of course, great. Jake, you're going to sit in when we dig into that interview. And of course, we've got so many more players we're going to bug and everything else. So we've got a lot of Bears coverage coming. But yes, I want to transition to baseball, basketball, and everything else. So we'll be having some fun doing some things here. And Trae Tunes, like I said, hopefully can get his internet figured out and we can bring him back, because he'll be our Johnny B's and our producer, our guy that run the controls on the music and the mics. This guy is as good as it gets, and he's a lot of fun. And anybody that doesn't know Trae Tunes, he's got his own Twitch channel show, and every day on weekdays, Monday through Friday, 12 to 2. It's really a lot of fun. If you listen to him, he'll pull up movie clips, show clips from The Office, South Park. We were watching clips from Nothing to Lose with Martin Lawrence, just laughing about stuff like that. And he's a DJ, so he pulls up a lot of music. It's a lot of fun, really a lot of fun. So make sure you're checking out Trae Tunes, and we're hoping that he becomes a big part of what we're doing here at Brags and Stands. But everything kind of takes its course naturally here at Brags and Stands. We don't force anything. We just have our fun and we roll with the vibes, roll with the waves. You want to talk about here's if you want to talk about Top Shots, I got to share this. It's a little lengthy, but I promise it'll be a great way to end the show. So here is Trae Tunes on his show, The Trae Tunes Show.
But it's good to talk to somebody when you don't know you're not going to feel judged about stuff, and you don't want to feel vulnerable and all that stuff. It's really healthy to get those thoughts out your mind and thoughts off your chest. And I know like what I'm saying right now is good advice, but this is the drunkest I've been on this show. I'm drunk. And it's y'all fault. but even when I'm drunk, I can keep it real. I'm drunk. I am drunk. I'm not tipsy. I am not tipsy. I'm drunk. Oh. Oh, man. Yo. Oh, shit. Man. Oh, shit. Oh. Oh shit! I'm trying. Okay. Woo. Okay. I'm trying to read the comments. Oh shit. I ain't never been drunk this goddamn early before without it being a football game on. Y'all gonna clip it? Is that what you all goes? Oh shit.
There it is. The Trae Tunes show brings a lot more to the table than just that, but it was a pretty classic moment he had on Friday or whatever. My days are getting confused now, but really, really funny stuff. Go ahead, Johnny. What were you saying, Johnny? I thought you were about to say something.
No, I was just listening to you. I wasn't.
No, he's the man. Trae is the man. Yeah, well, I thought he was about to talk. You know how I'm always talking over people,
yeah,
so I was trying to just
kind of fun. All the talking over, you actually were silent when nobody was talking. That's so interesting.
Well, it's all about timing, and sometimes we're in the off season now, so we got to work on our timing and our rhythm, and we'll be working on some things.
That's
and Johnny
your
B,
charm. That's your charm.
Exactly. It's part of my charm. I got to learn. I kind of bob and weave through a conversation in our interviews. So Johnny, you're going to have to be the one now that takes Jake's role of having to put up with me in my long questions or talking over the guests or even talking over you at times. But you're a ball of energy, so I'm sure you're going to be able to handle it. But I want to suggest as we move into baseball season that we kind of start to break up your background. You got all the Chiefs stuff, and I'm not trying to tell you take away your Chiefs stuff because I know how big a Chiefs fan you are, and I want you to represent who you are. But, as we get into baseball season, you start to represent some of Chicago here in your background, put some White Sox stuff up,
Well, Mr. Greg, I was actually born in Chicago, not Indiana. Just for the people listening at home. And I have lots of White Sox stories, tons. And when we get into the show, I'll tell some of those stories. I've got White Sox flags. I've got White Sox hats. And I even know somebody that played on the White Sox that was part of my family. And that's one of the stories that I'll tell eventually when we get in it. So don't you worry about me during baseball season. I'll step up to the plate and hit it out of the park.
We're ready. We're ready for you.
Then I will touch all the pillows as I celebrate the fireworks blowing up as I eat my popcorn after the 7th inning.
Oh, hey, I'm looking forward to baseball season. I had Nancy Faust on last year on my old podcast. It was one of the best interviews I had done, and it was the audio podcast. So I'd love to bring her back on now that we do it live and in video here. So that's right, Chubbs. Go Cubs, go all day long. Can't wait to get back to Wrigley Field this year. Lay my eyes on that beautiful ivy. And, just gave Trae Tunes a follow. So shout out to Trae Tunes. Chubbs just gave you a follow. So good luck when you meet him in the chats, because you always got to watch out for Chubbs. So I think that wraps things up for tonight. Again, appreciate everyone's time. I appreciate everyone in the chat hanging out. Want to give another shout out to our guy, JJ Stankevitz, working hard as always. Whatever he's up to next, we know he's going to land on his feet, and he's always got us in his corner. Johnny B and Abby, you want to close out Johnny B's session in your Johnny B and Abby style like you guys always do? Go ahead, take it away, Johnny.
Johnny B and Abs, we might have lost one game this year. That was the only game that we lost when we were in attendance this year. But we'll be back better than ever. We're not afraid. When you have St. Patrick on your side, only good things are coming forward. Good luck for you, Chicago, in this offseason. Remember what Johnny B said week 1. Carson Wentz is not an elite quarterback, and I've been saying it all year round. I hope you don't give up too much. I know Chris Ballard isn't going to do it, even though you guys were talking about it. So maybe you'll get your dream, and Deshaun Watson will want to come and play for the team that didn't draft him, but you never know. It's been fun, and we'll see you soon. Probably in LA at the Super Bowl.
That is our guy, Johnny B. Always in his Johnny B fashion. And Shout out to Johnny B for all his hard work here at Brags in the Stands. We're going to continue to rock and roll, Johnny B and I, as we enter the basketball and baseball offseason. Again, thank you, Jake, for everything you've done here in this first year, helping this get off the ground. We're only getting started here at Brags in the Stands. So, again, shout out to everybody in the chat hanging out. 3-hour show, our first ever 3-hour show. Started with singing happy birthday to one Michael Jeffrey Jordan. And it's going to end with Greg rambling through the shout outs as he always does. But again, be on the lookout next week for some Purdue basketball. That's how I'm going to wrap things up with my boys, the Boilermakers, wrapping up Michigan State last night at Mackey Arena. We are headed to the NCAA tournament. We'll see you next week. This is Brags in the Stands. Peace out.